It starts on page 137, our operating budget. And before I dive too deeply into that, would just like to highlight, some of the things that we were able to accomplish in the past year that we'll talk quite a bit about completing the facility study, particularly when we get back into the capital improvement plan discussion. So we were able to do that comprehensive study. We had the workshop where we presented that to council. You're familiar with those results, but like I said, we'll touch on how many of our CIP projects are tied directly to that. Also, as you're well aware, we were able to introduce a new administrative battalion chief, that kind of hybrid battalion chief role that council was kind enough to allow us to do earlier in the year, this year, that we've implemented that with great success. It's working very well. And we most definitely do appreciate that opportunity with that budget enhancement that occurred, to help us move forward and increase our organizational efficiency and have a much more manageable workload for our battalion chiefs. Other highlights, they'll just touch on, momentarily or just briefly that we continue to work actively with, multiple internal and external stakeholders on our fall prevention and fall reduction programs, seeing some traction there, being able to move forward with a partnership with the senior center, along with some of our other existing partners to try to reduce that risk in our community. As I mentioned, our first budget is 0100-0230 on page 137. That's pretty static from last year. That's the vast majority of our budget goes to pay and benefits, so that stays pretty static along the way. We have some minor increases, that we are experiencing, much like everybody else, based on rising costs of supplies, equipment, things like that. So, we're in pretty static shape there, not looking for any real additional changes this year. But as I've said before, I know that council has the very unenviable task of trying to balance the budget, with limited, as limited impact on the tax levy as possible, and have to decide on many different requests and enhancements from all the different departments. And one thing we would like to do, from the fire department is support some of the enhancement requests from other departments that will directly impact us. That I know you've seen a request for additional GIS specialists that help in IT. That will directly help the fire department with planning its response and standards of cover, as well as our risk reduction efforts. And as we move towards our goal of fire department accreditation, that resource will be invaluable to us. So I'd like to throw our support towards that. Additionally, you've heard about the needs for another facilities maintenance technician and the facilities project manager. We very much are in support of both of those positions. As we look at some of our CIP projects, in the immediate and long range future, that'll be tremendously beneficial to have somebody that has that experience and knowledge with project management. And then, as was highlighted in our facility study, many of our existing needs, and our existing facilities and stations would benefit tremendously from having some assistance with preventive maintenance and ongoing repair. So certainly would encourage you and request that you consider those three positions, on behalf of the fire department. Other than that, I don't think there's anything too terribly exciting in our operating budget. That coupled with that is the on page 140, is our 0240 ambulance budget. That as we would expect, that we've been experiencing a measurable, very large surge in call volume. That we're up about 8% for this year already. So we would anticipate the revenues being commensurate with that and increasing as well. So the more calls we run, the more we collect. But conversely too, the more calls we run, the more materials we use that are more expensive for the disposable and durable goods. So that cost goes up proportionally as well. Any questions on the operating budgets?
Hey, Chief, this is Russ.
Go ahead, Russ.
You just want to kind of go over and maybe I need to and help me explain to council. When we talked about wages, and we mentioned that the non-represented employees' wages are set aside in the contingency account for the class and compensation study, but the represented employees, the firefighters that are under contract, that was settled last year, so those numbers are already included in the budget. And you ought to just affirm that and just comment on that?
Yeah, that is correct. So this year is year 2 of a 3-year collective bargaining agreement. So the increases for next year in 2023 will be part of that 3-year contract and already accounted for, as Finance Director Van Gompel said.
And Chief, question, you said there's an 8% call volume up, and you were referencing our falls prevention and response. Do we know of that population, where we're at in terms of the response for falls in the fall prevention program? And I guess, is it related to the 8% increase in call volume?
It is, Mayor, that it's still our number one call type. That will run between 1,500 and 1,700 falls calls this year. Which is consistent with the last several years. Like I said, we will see an increase in that, but we are seeing an increase across the board in all call types. So with a growing population, aging population, that more dependence on pre-hospital care, in society, that we're seeing a call volume that is distributed across all of our call types, but most significantly of all our responses is still in that falls category.
Is that, and just kind of linking this over with police, we heard from Chief Smith yesterday about an increase in the drug activity and, overdose activity. Are you correspondingly seeing that also with fire and EMS?
We are. That, as I believe Chief Smith touched on yesterday, as we look at the numbers countywide, because we respond in the ambulance to most of the townships in the county, we are seeing an overall increase in overdoses and fatalities. So we're seeing that same trend that PD is. And then there is an unknown of what we're not seeing, because, are we not getting called? Are they utilizing Narcan at home and they don't call us and we don't get notified? So is that increase even truly represented by what potentially is going on?
Thank you.
Chief, it's Miller. The 8% really doesn't speak to the problem. I think and I don't expect you to have this off the top of your head, but I think if you look at our increases collectively over the last 3 years, the 8% is a real small piece of the pie. When you look at, we're talking 18-20% increases just in the last 3 years. Would you agree with that?
Yes, since 2019, we are on pace for a 15% increase. So, the last few years prior to this year, we've averaged right at, pretty static, a 5% increase over the last few years, like you said, Councilmember Miller. And then they said we're seeing, especially at the beginning of the year, that we saw a big swing that's leveled out some to bring us to that 8%. But yeah, we're experiencing a higher year than average the last few years. But yeah, it has been growing. You said 5% a year for the last 5 years or greater. So you are correct.
Just to remind council that the KPIs are in a separate schedule all by themselves. All the departments are grouped together. So if you're looking for the fire department, KPIs are on page 44 And I don't know if the chief or MJ wants to talk about any of the ambulance utilization, emergency response availability, or training KPIs.
Yeah, I would like to speak specifically to the KPI for unit hour utilization for our ambulances, and that brings us back, to Councilmember Miller's question about that increase. That where we're really seeing that increase in call volume and impact is in our ambulance units. That the industry standard, that you're kind of benchmarking against, and what was used in our 2019 staffing study from Matrix, is you want that ambulance to be between about 22 and 24% utilized. So 22 to 24% of the time it should be on a call. And that there's some nuances around that. Versus is it a fire-based EMS system or private-based EMS system, things like that. But we are pushing past that 24% unit hour utilization. And seeing unit hour utilizations of greater than 26%. So this doesn't appear to just be a trend. That we're seeing it sustained throughout the year. So we are getting on the very high end of unit hour utilization for our ambulances.
Chief, quick question for you. This is Matt. Staffing. We're still a little short. We're still, looks like five firefighters under. Confidence level in being able to get that to full employment, to full status in a reasonable time.
Yeah, that we are in the battle for talent, just like every other industry in the United States. And the number of qualified applicants for firefighters across the country is a nationwide crisis. And we have spent the past few years, but super aggressively this past year, trying to develop different pathways and pipelines into the fire department and very aggressively recruiting. So as you mentioned, Councilmember Mugerauer, that we were right as of today, we are 5 bodies short. Plus, there's still those lingering 3 out there in the ether to try to reduce the overtime. Right now, we have another 6 conditional job offers out. Those candidates are wrapping up those post-offer evolutions of background investigations and medical screenings and things like that. We anticipate appointing them on November 1st at the PFC meeting, and starting them in an academy November 7th, so that by the end of the year we'll be back to full staffing.
Good, thank you.
Chief, it's Miller again. How are we doing? And it's going to sound like a dumb question, but how are we doing with our forced call-ins? I know we've got these empty positions, which leads me automatically to believe we're probably not making a lot of headway on forced call-ins because of the vacancies. Can you comment briefly on them? I don't need any gory specifics, but do you think we're making some headway on that?
Yeah, you are correct. Because of the vacancies, that is creating a tremendous amount of need to backfill with overtime. And a lot of that has come to forced overtime. And quite honestly, I think you're well aware of this. That has a toll. That our people, the call volumes are up, and then they're working more hours. That's beating them up. And they're certainly feeling that. And that's why we've been so aggressive in our recruiting and hiring practices now to get an academy done even before the end of the year, so that we can get them some relief.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks, Chief.
It's kind of similar to police.
It's just
It's the
until
bulk
you-
of
until
the
you fill
budgets
the bu-
are
yeah.
people. They're people, the most important asset. That's not just a statement. That's a reality.
Yeah.
That and filling that. I mean, even with this is as high an expenditure on overtime as this department's ever seen. They're still under because they're so far under on regular pay, and it's all a function of that. And I know both of the assistant chiefs here, they work on recruiting all the time. It's a challenge. I would say, in spite of everything the chief's saying about singing the blues about this, we're probably in better shape than most fire departments because we're kind of higher up the food chain. We are attractive as an employer, but even though we're attractive as an employer, we're still having a devil of a time. Think of the folks who aren't as lucky as us.
Well,
Just the reality of the times.
it wouldn't be fair to mention, I think we are making progress. I just happen to know this from the gentleman sitting to my left here, that we've had some transfer-ins from other departments, which hasn't happened in a long time. So that tells me that our recruiting efforts are definitely paying off.
Yeah, and thank you for that, Councilmember Miller. And, I just so happened I'm at a conference, and, the session right before this, they were talking about the labor shortages and the recruitment strategies, and what are we going to do as the fire service? And one of the interesting things that came out of that we've really tried to focus our attention on is being a destination, being an employer of choice. And one of the things that I'd never heard before, but, I think resonates, for all of the city departments, in the city of Oshkosh, and your front door's got to be bigger than the back door. That we need to be bringing people in as an employer of choice and not be one of the agencies that's having people leave. And I think really that's what's, as City Manager Roloff said, not just about the fire department, but all of the city of Oshkosh. That's true about us. People want to come through our front door because we're a great place. We need to consciously work to sustain that.
And I will say, and I think it's important, and maybe Fitz can even attest to this, we do appreciate the cooperation of the fire union because we've had to make some accommodations within our working agreement because that didn't lend itself, our contract didn't lend itself to bringing people in from the outside. They've worked with us so that we can do more outreach and get folks from the outside because I think everybody recognizes, as Chief said, the front door needs to be bigger than the back door. And if we're having a lot of people exit because of age, just no other reason other than they've hit retirement and it's time to go. But I think it's important to point out that they've assisted us in getting us to be able to take people. Although I would imagine, Chief, that amongst the fire ranks, they're like, well, yeah, this is a strategy, but we recognize we might lose people to lateral moves. Because but I think we're doing better. I think our front door is a little better than our back door right now. I don't know what Greg and Brian think.
Yeah, the lateral transfer agreement has been very beneficial for us. And of our last multiple hires, I think only one has been fresh from school. They've all been transferred or had experience on another department or agency. So it's been very beneficial for us. I'd also like to echo City Manager Roloff's comments about cooperation with the local. They obviously see things a bit differently than we do, but they have worked very well with us. We worked very hard to get some changes made to the contract that allow this lateral to happen and therefore make us more competitive with other departments throughout the state.
Chief Stanley, anything to add to that?
No, I think that great comments, great discussion. Very accurately captures it. And like I said, we're glad that the fire department, in concert with the city of Oshkosh, has been able to work with Local 316 so that we can address some of these issues because it is such a dynamic and evolving workplace right now, and not only the fire service but every service. No other questions. I'll move on to page 225 is our special revenue account. So that's where we receive grants, gifts, donations, as well as state funding. That primarily is funded through our cooperation on the state hazmat team. So we bring monies into that to fund many of our special operations and additionally EMS. That we've been able to make our firefighters safer, through that, with being able to purchase extractor commercial washing machines to wash their protective equipment, get those carcinogens out of it to prevent workplace cancers, and been able to increase the safety of our firefighters and, more importantly, our community with additional hazardous material equipment and training, to reduce those threats and better prepare us to respond. We'll continue to do that in 2023. We'll purchase another extractor for a fire station. That'll be the last city station that needs an extractor. also plan for, additional training for our special teams members, to continue to raise their level of education, skill, and preparedness, and purchase the equipment needed to support that. So, any questions on 0235 230?
Just a question under the revenue for state aid. It looks like 2020 we were at like 45,000 and projected to be 33,000 next year. Is that for any particular reason or just they're being stingy?
Yeah, sorry, Mayor. The state funding changed a little bit. That the legislature, excuse me, wanted to get the task force team, the urban search and rescue team, back solvent in the state. It had been inactive for a few years as a lack of contract and several other issues. So they appropriated $500,000 that was allocated to hazardous materials, move that over into the task force bucket for search and rescue, so that impacted our revenues from the hazmat program. But at the state level, we're asking that they restore that funding to the hazardous material program, as well as continue to fund the task force team, in the next state budget.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Other questions?
Okay, don't worry about it.
Book to CIP on page 459, 459. It's broken down by department. It says, as I mentioned earlier, the majority of our CIP requests, are pursuant to the results of the comprehensive facility study. That they identified things, like concrete repairs that need to be done, some safety improvements like electronic eyes on the garage doors and things like that will reduce accidents and collisions. Just some generalized, maintenance and renovations. But then the big things that are on our docket in the capital improvement plan, like I mentioned, would benefit greatly from a project manager, is the converting the old armory on Sawyer Street, finishing the phases of that to turn that into the fire department training center. That's much needed. That's something that is long overdue for a department our size. And with the services we provide, to be able to maintain our training and have an adequate training facility, that'll be something that is very actively used. Several times a day, not just every day, but rotating our companies through there. So we're very excited to get moving on that next year with the building of ancillary buildings for the other departments to house their equipment and artifacts from the museum and the voting booths and things like that, so that then we can get started on that renovation. Then as we talked about in the workshop, Station 14 at the airport needs to be replaced. The city manager and I met with some of the county staff last week to discuss how we can get that moving on their side of things, since they own the building. And then, as you'll probably recall here, a couple of weeks ago, council approved the agreement between the county and the city for the provision of those services, and the county board of supervisors has approved that, and we've executed that agreement as well. Then for city facilities, city fire stations, Station 16, is in horrible repair and in a very unadvantageous location for best response, and wear and tear on our vehicles. So now that the funding has been identified, and the need and the station study has been completed, we'll start looking much more seriously at property acquisition, for where that station could be located, identifying that property costs, infrastructure needs, things like that, to get that project rolling. And then other CIP projects, primarily revolve around apparatus. You'll see a order from us here, a request to order a 2025 engine that's listed there in the CIP shortly as well, so that we can get in line based on that build out time, like we have done with the past couple purchases, and primarily around safety equipment. That's how do we make sure that we're keeping our firefighters safe with up to date, adequate, and even superior protective equipment that not only protects them from fires and hazards like that, but protects them long term from occupational cancers.
Chief, it's Miller. On that truck replacement, I don't know if it's an engine or a quint or what it is, but is that on the normal calendar? This isn't anything that's out of the normal calendar purchase? This is right on track?
Yeah, it'll be an engine, Councilmember Miller, for that's was scheduled for 2025. That's the build outs for fire apparatus right now is greater than 2 years. And the other thing that we're conscientious of and going to avoid is another price increase. It's going to go up 7% again in November. So we want to get the most value for our dollar, certainly, and then at least get in line. So it'll require a budgetary amendment like we've done, or an amendment to the CIP plan. And Finance Director Van Gompel, feel free to correct me or hop in, but it's what we've done the past couple of times. If we don't pay until 2025, we just get in line.
No, that's fine. I just wanted everybody to understand that this is just a normal calendar purchase. Has the truck been spec'd already?
Chief Stelter is working on that right now. So in kind of in that same train of thought, we had purchased a engine for 2023 for next year. So they've been doing the pre-construction meetings for that. So we're getting close to that one being constructed. And while he's been working with the truck committee on that, he's been preparing the specs and the quote for the 2025 engine.
Yeah. Thanks, Chief.
Mm-hmm.
Just
Other questions?
Just a follow-up question then. So, under that CIP for land acquisition for stations, have any areas been identified? I know a little while back you gave us a workshop or kind of a preview about, some of the challenges with response times between, I think, 16 and 17. But any ideas on locations yet? Or is that still in the preliminary works?
I would say it's past preliminary, but we're not at liberty to discuss them because of real estate transactions. I'm hoping that maybe sometime in the next 4 months, I might have a closed session with you to talk about it. But at this point, it's all speculative, and I don't wanna lose our bargaining position and drive up a price on something. But Chief and I are actively working on it.
And I don't have any idea where you're talking about, but I'm kind of turning around here, looking out the window, wondering about something across the street there.
Well, a lot of this has more to do with Station 16. Again, not without giving out too much. Station 15 is after that. Station 16 is probably the one more strategic. Would you say 16 is our top priority?
Yes, sir. Yeah, 16's the hierarchy is 1A, 1B is Station 14 at the airport, Station 16 on Washburn, and then Station 15 would then be 2.
Even though I can't say anything, I can tell you that once we're done today, the chief's going to call me because I was going to be doing something, and I haven't done it yet, Chief. So we're actively working on it.
Okay.
Other questions?
Obviously, the training facility on Sawyer is a priority for the fire department, but you'll see that that's in 2024 because our priority for 23 is they can't move in until they get their roommates out. So police, museum, clerk, you heard city clerk talk about a facility for the Badger book. She needs a place that is more weather resistant type of thing. So finding the different locations for them, and then of course the police department, they're going to go over to 3rd Avenue. But those are the priorities for '23, so that in '24 we can start working on the training facility.
Great, well, thanks for joining us.
Again, thank you for allowing me to be virtual, and appreciate your time. And I hope you aren't disappointed that we're done considerably early, and that you may have to get out early today. I'm sure that's a huge disappointment.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, Chief.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
At this point,
I know.
Mayor, if there was any unfinished business before the library gets here, I can certainly call Diane and see if the library director is available a little early. But if there's some stuff.
Well, the only thing we haven't talked about, and I made a note of it this morning, is we didn't talk about the debt section. We could do that.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does that sound good to talk about? I mean, it is important to talk about that. Maybe we could just take this opportunity to talk about debt.
And also, if we could get those position descriptions for the SAB or the Sustainability Manager and the DEI Coordinator.
Very good.
I know we got the one for the Museum Curator.
Well, that's just kind of a narrative on their justification. I don't know if they, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think they've done a formal job description yet for that.
No, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mayor, I thought what you were asking for were the enhancement sheets. Was that correct?
The description of what they're asking for,
Yeah,
yes.
and actually, we could provide all the enhancement requests if that's something everybody would find value in.
It was just that I know that it was very recent that those two came up, so we haven't even seen or heard any of the detail.
Yeah, they're not job descriptions, but we can provide the enhancement form that was prepared by staff on behalf of DEI and SAB, I know.
So the two that you'd like specifically are the DEI enhancement requests, and what was the other one?
The Sustainability Manager.
Sure. Yep, we'll make sure we work
I'm
with
just kind of
finance.
wondering if
Get
there's
that to
any
you.
overlap there. Just
Yeah.
curious.
So, I'm just wondering, in the future, we've given, the past practice has been just giving you a summary schedule of enhancements. If you want that in the future, departments certainly provide it, and that we use it for our internal discussions. If council wants to see all those details, we can certainly do that. We just haven't done that in the past.
I think last year you guys provided some not you guys, but different departments, and I'm specifically remembering Public Works, provided some detail. Doesn't have to be in depth in terms of the different roles they were asking for. And just honestly, once it comes to decision-making time, and especially this year, there's 14 or 15 different positions or a dozen positions, and somebody's going to forget the difference between the tech and the maintenance worker and this guy in that position. And so it can be helpful in terms of even just during the decision-making process, a reminder.
I would just operating from the roll-off philosophy. If one council member asks for it, maybe we should just give it to everybody, and then you have it. So we could do that.
And I think the deputy mayor pointed out yesterday, this is an unusual year in which the number of personnel requests are greater than I think council's seen in all the time I've been here. So that's a little different, and it's hard to, how do you sort?
Keep
And
track of them.
I think the mayor's already looking for some ways to, be creative in terms of some of these positions, and
But the
we can
summary
say-
sheet is still valuable.
yeah.
So not looking to just a little bit of enhancement to the enhancement sheet, just a little help.
Well, fit the-
So, we have all, it's actually about 17 of them now, if I remember right. You go to page 35, 33, what is it? I just handed it out right before lunch.
Yeah, 33. Handed something out.
Earlier this morning.
Page 35. Page 35 is the summary with the levy impacts.
I didn't get that.
It's the one in black and white.
I got plenty extras. You
That's
didn't
the
get
one-
one? hold on a second.
Diane brought him in after, I think you must have had Tracy work on him, right?
No, Russ did it.
Russ did it, then you quietly did it. But it's the one that has 19.
So why don't we just go to that real quick, and it, you know, if there's some that you don't want to say, because it, in order for us to get you these budget enhancements, the actual forms themselves, actually, we're up to 19. We might have to go to multiple different places. It's not that we're trying not to provide you something. I want to provide you all the information you want, but if there's something you don't need, it'd be nice to know real quick, but if there's something you do want, I'd like to try to get that to you. So I don't know if you want to roll through these really quick. Number one was the DEI coordinator. Number two was the IT GIS new position. Number three was the facility maintenance technician that you heard about earlier today. Number four is 2 police officers. Number 5 is, did I end up putting that in twice? I did. So I added number 5 and number 17. So you can cross number 17 off your list. That's what happens when I was trying to do work during the work session this morning. So I got that in there twice. Sorry about that.
I see that, but do you want it with the tax levy one or with the?
Well, let me just ask, because we
We
wanted it.
debated this, I mean,
Yeah.
Russ and I have gone back and forth. It could be levy, but it is
A one-time
a
thing.
pretty unique,
Yeah, I wouldn't put that on the list.
it's quite
If you
arguable.
want it, if you want to,
Unbalanced.
if you want to cross off number 5 and leave 17 in play,
That'd be my preference.
Wait a
Yeah,
minute.
mine is.
Hold on a second. I'm sorry, but I'm not sure that
are
I
you,
have-
are you on page
I'm-
35?
I'm on page 35,
Okay, go,
the October
You're not
13th.
You're not
We
looking
handed
at
out
the
one this
new one.
morning.
Yeah.
It's a black and white version.
right here.
was here this morning.
Yeah.
I might have put it in the wrong place.
you need another one?
Yeah.
I didn't even get one.
I had pretty sure I did, but who needs
That one right there, Lori, you
Three.
just
It's a joke.
get back, go back. Go back, just go back one, just go back one. There, is that it?
No, that one's got color on it.
It's right here.
No.
No, Lauren.
All right.
Sorry about that.
I apologize. That's what happens when you, I thought I had handed them out.
It was next to you all morning.
So
Got here early.
So, again, we kind of stopped, but I would like to see those actually swapped around.
If it's a study, let's use cash, not
Yeah.
levy.
Okay,
Would be
so
easy.
if we're all in agreement, let's first, so we're all on the same
It's fine.
hymnal
Well,
page.
Let's get everybody a chance to digest it before we just do it. We may just be the minority on that,
I would
think
say
what
the
I'm
corp plan
hearing-
falls in the same category.
so.
Correct, but let me just go through the numbers first. So we're on number 5. And I added it also as number 17 in error this morning. So it really is a repeat. One is a levy impact, one's without the levy impact, and we decide on another funding source, whether it's fund balance or ARPA. But if we do that, we can strike number 5, because we still have it on our list as number 17. If we're
So
all-
what I'm saying is I would rather use cash. That's my position right now.
Correct. So that, why don't we,
Okay.
Hearing that a lot.
for the sake of discussions, let's leave 17 on the table.
Perfect.
And cross out number 5 if everybody's in agreement.
Yeah, I'm not saying I'm supporting it yet, but if
No.
I am, I'm paying cash, not debt,
Right.
or not levy.
Yep, I agree. Yes, and I echo that sentiment.
Okay,
And then my question is, along that line is, it's also a one-time, and the impact fee study was for the parks. Is there a world in which the corp plan RFP or bid includes also doing the impact fee study with
I
the
think
corp?
those are
As we get-
two different special, as I understand it, 2 different areas of expertise. Comprehensive outdoor recreation plan, and getting somebody to do that for you might be a different skill set than the impact study.
I think she's talking about the funding source, though, aren't you?
No, she's
No,
talking about
no,
bidding
I'm
them together.
talking about getting them together.
Oh, no,
by the
totally
same-
different skill set. Totally different.
That's
I
what I was
agree
trying
with-
to say.
Yeah, that's what, I thought you were talking about funding source. No, I agree with Russ. They're totally different skill sets.
So somebody like Gray, for somebody that, I mean, I know Rettler is very specialized and they only do certain things, but I mean, some of the larger planning firms we don't think they have the capacity to do, impact.
They may not necessarily be the right group to do a fee analysis, because one's parks related, one is, just because it's a part, the impact fee analysis
Parkland
is not.
dedication, yeah.
That's just one of them, but that's not all. Impact fees go beyond just parks. So it might be a different skill set. It could very well be an engineering firm. It could be a planning firm. It depends. Corps are typically done by firms that are more specific to parks, like a Rettler or something like that. I wouldn't necessarily think of a Rettler for an impact fee study, but Grafe, I might consider that for one or the other. So it really depends, but I agree with Russ. I think we would do them as two independent RFPs.
My apologies, I thought the first time we saw this impact fee study was specific to parkland dedication.
Yeah, it was probably the biggest emphasis, but not exclusive.
Okay.
You can also create them for fire and other infrastructure needs as well. So, anyways, getting back to the enhancements, if I may. Number 6 is the sustainability SAB manager. That is up on the levy. Number 7 we talked about earlier today was from administrative services for prescription safety glasses. Number 9 and 10 are in that internal service fund, but they have a indirect impact on the levy. To what extent it's hard to measure, but some of this could also be offset by utility. When I initially did the proposed budget enhancements, I had it outside the levy, but in talking with the city manager, because there's the indirect cost to the other departments within the general fund, we put it as a levy impact for just the sake of discussion. The museum is looking for the curator, educator that you heard earlier this morning. Yesterday, that was number 11. Yesterday at number 14, the transit department asked for a management analyst. Their total cost is $84,400. About 25% of their funding comes from levy. So I identified $21,001 as a levy impact. And then we have yet to hear from the library director, but the library board is asking for your consideration on an adjustment to the levy for library services. We'll hear that in just a few minutes when we get to the library. But I'm just kind of recapping the budget enhancements right now. Number 8 is the facilities project coordinator. I am recommending for your consideration that that person be funded through and accounted for in our special assessment fund, but it's not going to be paid for by special assessments. And that's where I think some confusion is. It's really, a lot of their costs are going to be offset by projects, but there's going to be some overhead costs that don't get assigned to projects. And I chose the special assessment fund because we already have employee cost in that for a clerical person. And I didn't really want to set up another personnel cost and another capital project fund. So the special assessment fund is a type of capital project fund, so that's why I'm suggesting to record it there.
Russ,
Yeah.
can I interrupt you for a second? I understand why you're doing this. I understand that, but for people looking from the outside in, it looks like we're playing a little bit of a shell game here. So I think if you can footnote that somehow or something. I just know that the cynicism when they look at budgets is, why is this enhancement here?
Yeah.
Does that make any sense or not really?
I think they're going to say, why is it position
Right.
here? I mean,
So I don't know if anybody else wants to chime in. It's just my personal thing, but if I'm the only guy that thinks that way, then move on. But
No, but I think it's the bigger picture is no matter whether it's an accounting position Even my position is being funded partially by utilities.
Right, well, but you work for the utility also, doing the
Correct.
numbers. So,
And that this position would be doing some of those, maintaining or being the project coordinator for capital projects. So the parts that are associated with that will get assigned out to that specific project. It's just like our cashiers and our utility billing customer service folks. They're all getting charged out to utilities. So,
it just sounds like nobody else cares, so I guess
best-
just let's
yeah.
move
No,
on.
I hear you. I mean, you don't want to set the. We see that rumor already out there that
Right,
utilities exist to subsidize other operations.
Yeah,
Just-
so-
even if it's a one pager
yeah,
explaining.
and I think, really what we try to do is look at all of our cost centers and look at, what employees are doing what for other functions. And that gets to whether we're talking water, sanitary sewer, stormwater. We talked about that with our internal service fund today. It's just, we're doing accounting activities to try to best represent how we can report out our activities to the taxpayers and to the city council, but it's also a way of doing that cost center analysis.
I recall in 2009, 2010, when the council gave clear direction, they wanted to see more work on infrastructure. And my discussions with then Public Works Director Patek was that, I'm all in favor of doing these projects, but I need engineers to do it, to manage these projects. And so we actually increased our engineering staff by 3, much the same way Russ is proposing this. So it is an increase in staff. There's no denying it. It's just that it's weaved into the cost of the project itself. This person will be spread through multiple capital projects. Is
Right.
that a good way of
Yes.
saying it, Russ?
Yes, definitely.
So whether it's the training facility, Mr. Mauer's, lamenting the fact that this person wouldn't be here to help him with the parks building. And that's part of the reason you do this, so that the parks director can continue to do park stuff, not manage a building project. And I can tell you, when I was in Grand Chute and built a town hall, at the end of the year, my review consisted of, well, this is worthless because we gave you these tasks and you spent half your time working on the building because there was nobody there else to do it. So that is going to absorb a lot of raise time. What we're trying to do is avoid, John Urban does a lot with facility maintenance and purchasing in this. If he's chasing these projects down, or if Chief Stanley's chasing the training facility down, that's where it's going to be. But the point is valid, that it's an increase in staff, but it's probably money well spent.
I'm not gonna disagree with
Yeah.
you, but I want some
gotta
clarity,
get a
of
narrative.
footnoted, something along those lines. That's all I'm asking for,
Yeah.
and like I said, if nobody else wants it, I lose, but it just,
No,
Yeah.
if I may just kind of continue through this, so we just wrap
Sure,
it up.
sorry.
And then that way we can, what you want, what you need for additional documentation, we will provide. It's just that I want to make sure we're clear in what the expectations are. So initially 15A were 2 water positions, number 19 is the 3rd. So you heard this morning from water, they're looking for a maintenance worker, a lead water maintenance worker, and a filtration operator. So they're requesting 3. Sewer, and you heard this morning, it's going to be split between water and sewer. They're looking for specifically a CIP engineering tech to handle the CIP projects for utilities, which is kind of like the facilities project coordinator, but that would be non-utility stuff. We added number 13 is the Emerald Ash Borer remediation program. That's a one-time fee. If you're asking me off of my advice, that would be probably an eligible either fund balance or ARPA request. We talked about the impact fee study, number 17 already. Number 30 is the parks, comprehensive outdoor recreation plan. It should be capitalized, but I didn't capitalize it all.
And that's an update too, by the way.
Yeah, it is an update. Okay, thank you. Again, sorry about that, but I was trying to get you everything so it was all representative. So if there's anything from 1 through 19, and I'm hearing 1 and I'm hearing 6 that you want documentation for, are there others?
I just had a question on number 7, on the safety glasses. Our employees have flex spending accounts, right?
They do.
Yes.
Is that something I believe that would be eligible since it's not paid by insurance, that they can run through flex spending like pre-tax?
That would be yes, it would be eligible. I didn't want to say ineligible, then
Just- yeah,
confuse
just-
you.
Curious, that's all.
I just, if we're requiring these people for safety equipment, I think we have an obligation to provide it. So, I mean, if it's required for your job, that'd be like saying you gotta go out and pay for a hard hat or something if you're required to wear it. So, my 2 cents worth.
So does anybody want to throw out other enhancement numbers that we should get you additional documentation for?
Can you do number 2 and 3, please?
Absolutely. Thank you.
And 8 while we're on it, might as well.
You know, somebody's a little greedy this afternoon.
No problem. Other requests? Hearing none, I'm summarizing 1, 2, 3, 6, and 8. Okay.
Because 11 was already given to us.
Yes. Well, you got some additional information today.
Oh, I'm sorry. Back to that, you were saying on number 14, the management analyst, that only 25% of that, and that's where that 21,000, because the total was 84, right?
Correct. Initially, that was all in the bottom box, but again, after discussing the enhancements with the city manager, we recognize that it could be some impact on the levy. So we wanted to recognize that at least 25% of that could be considered additional demands for levy.
Well, and since we have not heard from library yet and will shortly, I don't know if they'll bring us some more detail on that or not.
He's right behind you.
I have it with you. Great.
Part of my story. All right, the question is, if you're okay, I'm not sure how much more discussion after the library during the question and answer period we have on these individual enhancements. My plan would be to get it to you as part of the packet for next Tuesday's council meeting. Is that sufficient?
I think what I'll ask John to do tomorrow is ask the department heads, not only, because we have the enhancement forms, that's easy. But in terms of any supplemental information, some have provided it, some I didn't, I said, I don't need to see it, I understand what you're asking for, but they might have some supporting documentation that I would welcome, and we can just put in a packet for Friday and get it out.
No, I
Do
can
that.
ask them tomorrow.
That's right, you're not here tomorrow.
I'm not here, but that's okay. But I think you guys know what council's asking for.
The other thing is, I noticed on the first proposed enhancement sheet that we had, they had sustainability manager listed at 100,000, but then on this sheet, it's 50. How did that change?
Don't know. Good catch.
I know it shows 50.
I don't know how it changed, but I recall from the presentation of Margie David that they were requesting just funding for 1 year. Mm-hmm. So,
So on the first proposed enhancement sheet and also on the revised, it had 100,000, and then this one has,
Oh, you know,
On here, on here it's 100 and on here it's 50.
Yeah.
I have a feeling-
Was that a half-year deal?
no, I think what Margie was trying to make the case was that this position could potentially be a source of getting grants.
Right?
So I think it was proposed at a proposed or estimated net cost of 50. I'd be a little hesitant to overpromise and underdeliver. It probably should be close to 50, or close to 100, excuse me. I think it should be close to 100 because there's no guarantee we'd get that revenue. But is it a potential? It's absolutely a potential. That's probably why there's, there are different numbers. But I think they were trying to be optimistic that that could be a source of grant revenue.
I think it'd probably be appropriate to update this to
You know,
Yeah, the,
full boat.
I'd
I
be
think-
happy to circle back with, Community Development Director Nyforth, and then we can get that information to, Finance. And so you get the accurate number if that's all right.
Thank you.
Here,
Yeah.
Aaron's just chiming in. He said SAB created an example position description for the sustainability manager. So that's basically how that number changed, I guess.
I'll bet they thought revenue. I don't know, do you have the form?
No, we're good.
We'll
Try and
find it.
But
We'll find
he's
it.
saying the SAB created
he?
it, so,
I'm sorry.
you know, so, yeah. Aaron is, yep.
Oh,
Aaron's watching.
He would be here.
He's texting me, yeah.
so I guess, so you're saying that,
Metaverse.
but I don't think Margie would have had access to change between what we got yesterday and what we got
Yeah,
today.
but that could have been from the form. We could have transposed it from the form.
Okay, so,
Yeah.
all
We'll
right.
look at it. We'll straighten it out
I
and
think
get it to you.
if I speak to Kelly, she'll know what dialogue she had with Margie and the board, and then we can make sure that they might not have priced anything out. They may not have talked to HR, you know, so I'll try to get to the bottom of it for you.
I think there's probably a typo. It'll be 100,000 next time.
There's still more work,
Yeah.
yeah, there's
Wouldn't
still work
overthink
to
it.
do on these. But I think we can get that, the idea, get it to you by Friday
Yep,
in your
for sure.
packet. And I would just suggest, since Mr. Gilderson Dewey is already here, and we were doing this as an activity to bridge the gap until he arrived, you know,
Yeah, I'm glad to know that the punchline's already been let out, so
yeah.
that's fine.
I will change page 35 to 100.
Thank you.
Then I think that's it, unless you have more questions and answers on enhancements, but the library.
And we still want to
The
do that.
library is on
Yeah.
board.
Beautiful.
John,
Jeff, it's all yours.
no, come here, you're just gonna sit here.
When did you update? Okay.
I have some supporting materials and visual aids that I would like to share with you. Go ahead and take a packet and pass it on.
Sorry. Thank you.
I'm writing notes.
Well, that finishes going around. I wanted, first of all, I want to thank you all.
Thank you.
I know that this is a long process. It's challenging, but it's so important. And I appreciate all the effort and the time that you've spent yesterday and today. I also realize that I'm coming in pretty close to the end of a marathon. So if I can make a marathon reference, you may know that in the course of the Boston Marathon, there's a stretch that's called Heartbreak Hill. It's where the runners get to that point where they break and they don't finish. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to tell you some stories. I'm going to, I hope, inspire you, uplift you, make you proud of what the Oshkosh Public Library is doing to build this community and knit it together, and give you the heart for the home stretch. Right, so this is the getting over Heartbreak Hill moment of the day. At least I hope so. By 60. So the first story I want to tell you is, what are we trying to do? What is Oshkosh Public Library trying to do? Because we all know or have an image of what a public library is for. Usually that's formed at about age 10, and that has changed a lot. The top sheet on the packet I handed you is our top level strategic plan goals and objectives. Our strategic plan was built in the fall of 2020 into the beginning of 2021, right in the middle of the pandemic crisis. And it incorporates the lessons that we were learning through that crisis. During our work on this strategic plan, it became clear that our top level goal had to be being driven by community needs. And that goal one became really the motivating mantra of our efforts to help this community emerge from the pandemic. The other goals are also key, and really we're in the process of kind of recasting some of these goals. We may tweak goal 2 just to take the word card out of that goal and emphasize a library that matters, a library that has impact on the individuals that use its services. We've always been a catalyst for learning and growth. Literacy, learning, lifelong learning have always been a core value of American public libraries and the Oshkosh Public Library in particular. And then being a provider and connector to trusted information. In a world where so much information is questionable, where it's hard to judge, Oshkosh Public Library stands as a place where we help people get connected to authoritative information. We help them learn the skills to evaluate information. We assist them to find information that's reliable in a pretty messy information world. But really today I want to focus on goal 1, because that has really been key for our activities in the last 2 years. And it emphasizes partnership. It emphasizes being more in touch with the emerging needs of the community. Some examples. We have strengthened a whole range of partnerships with other agencies and other entities in this community to help the community not only respond and recover from the pandemic, but also to keep that momentum up. We've renewed or built new partnerships with the County Bar Association. We revived free legal clinics for people once a month to be able to come in and consult with an attorney for free. We've been a site for and a partnership with the Public Health Department for vaccination clinics. And I've just learned this morning that they want to bring those clinics back into the library again this fall. So we're excited about that opportunity. We partner with the city clerk's office to be a polling place. And that started right in the middle of the pandemic during 2020. We sell bus passes for the Transit and Transportation Department out of the library. We've built a very strong partnership with the day-by-day warming shelter. Partly because we realized that we're the default warming shelter for folks who find themselves without shelter during the day.
And cooling.
That's right. We're warm in the winter and we're cool in the summer. But we've grown a closer partnership with the day by warming shelter. With them, we've created something that's called a comfort cabinet. We repurposed an old oak library card catalog to contain personal hygiene materials that are free distribution to anybody who needs them. So toothpaste, deodorant, combs. I can't name the whole range of things, but the day-by-day warming shelter stocks it. Folks can donate those materials, and they make sure that our supplies are kept high and we resupply. They also have office hours, if you will, twice a week in the library. They just come and they sit at a table because they know their clients and we know their clients. So they're there as a touch point inside the library. So the library as a community location asset. It's open a wide range of hours. It's stigma-free. It's a familiar place. It's a non-judgmental place. We have a new partnership with the state's Workforce Development Agency. They are, I believe this is weekly. They have office hours as well. So they're meeting with job seekers in the library and advising them on their searches. We are a location for AdvoCap to run GED classes. We've are also a place where the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation is meeting with clients as well in the library. So we have been open to these sorts of partnerships and increase them, and will continue to be looking for those opportunities to use the asset of the library place on the bus lines, good hours, during the school year, 7 days a week, and partnering with agencies that are in the business of helping people travel their life's journey in a successful way. And in line with that, we received, along with 10 other libraries in the state, an ARPA grant in order to work on applying social work concepts within the library service setting. In line with that, what we've done is we've sponsored a number of lunch and learn events with area social service agencies to come in and meet with our staff and understand where we fit in the service referral landscape better, to talk about what are the requirements to get into your program, or who are you able to see, what are the processes, what's a good referral for you. So we're working hard on both understanding what's happening in the community, where people are struggling, and then partnering with the agencies that are in the game of addressing those.
Is legal action still there?
I'm sorry?
Is legal action still there?
Not legal action.
Or legal,
The
the legal clinic, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
that was the first one I led off, and we
Oh,
are
I'm sorry.
working with the county bar. The legal service clinics take place at Oshkosh Public Library as well as at the Neenah and Menasha Public Libraries on a monthly basis. And that's a free legal advice opportunity. I think that's very, very valuable. This isn't a partnership, but we have made sure that that our information services staff in that department, there's always a notary on duty. We offer free notarization whenever the library is open. And that is a service that's really growing. Because as many of you know, if you need a document notarized, usually you need it now. And it's usually really consequential for you to get that document notarized. So that service is also growing. And we've emphasized that that's available whenever we're open for business. So that's a kind of quick hitter at what is it we're about. Obviously, we're still committed to literacy. We're still committed to lifelong learning and story times and building families and helping kids get ready for school. All of those things are still key commitments that we have. But I wanted to highlight some of the activities that have come out of our COVID pivot, because these are things that we've really embraced in the last 2 years, and we continue to see as real opportunities for us to deliver value to as many members of this community as we can. Because our vision statement for the public library is a library in every life. And my translation of that is our aim is to deliver value to every single member of this community. Now, that may be in traditional ways. It may be an audiobook. It may be a picture book. But it's also these other kinds of activities, because the library building and its hours of open and our skilled and increasingly skilled and upskilled staff are key assets to helping deliver that kind of value. So that's the first part of the story that I wanted to tell you. I want to share a couple of specific stories. Last spring, I attended the Wisconsin Association of Public Libraries conference, and the theme of that conference was the power of stories. The power of stories. And I came out of that really energized. And since then, I've been a regular pest to my staff. I come up to them and say, what's the best customer encounter you've had lately? Tell me a story about where you've impacted somebody's life. And I want to just share 3 of those stories with you, so that you get a sense of the range of sorts of things that we deliver, the range of ways we deliver value to the community. And starting with that kind of community resource for social services. I'm going to lead off there. Last summer, a lady came into the library and she came to the checkout area and came up to our staff, and she wanted to tell them how happy she was that we were offering these kinds of community service opportunities. She told us that she was there that day to meet with the workforce development folks, and that they had really helped her decide what her next steps should be in her career and in her job search. She also shared that she had a friend who was originally from Korea who found herself in our community, and that she had referred that person to the Wisconsin Area Literacy Council, which is our longest standing service partnership. They've been in our building since the 1980s. And that her friend she'd approached Fox Valley Tech and the UW, but she wasn't able to get help there. But she was hooked up with a tutor at the Literacy Council, and she was making really significant progress in learning English. And then lastly, the lady asked about the legal clinics, because she said she had an upcoming need that was going to require her, or that she needed legal advice. So she was really excited that she was going to be able to get that. So that was a testimonial to our success of delivering value in three of those areas where we've been concentrating. A little bit different tack, I want to share with you the story of Ellen, who is a retiree that I met in the foyer area of the library one day. And she learned that I was the director, and she said, "I want to talk to you." And she said, "I want you to know that the library is my favorite place in the community." And I said, "Well, tell me why that is." And she explained to me that in her working life, she had to be on a screen like 8 or 10 hours every single day. She had to be connected to the internet. And she was so happy that now in retirement, she didn't have to have the internet at home. She could come down to the library, and for about an hour a week, she could get done her work on the internet. And then she didn't have to deal with it in the rest of her life. She didn't want to be connected. Usually I tell stories about internet access to the library as this great thing because people can get access. She didn't want access except for that little bit of time that she needed. So she was excited that she could do that, and we delivered value to her to live her life the way she wants to, by not having to pay for internet access, not have to have internet access at home. We had a homebound lady call the library and ask about notary service. She had a helper friend who could drive her down here, but she couldn't get into the library. So our librarian offered to notarize a document at curbside for her. Both of the ladies, her helper and the lady, were incredibly grateful. They said, "You don't know how helpful this was. I can't imagine how we would have gotten this done without you." Because her helper friend had a hard time even just getting her in the car. So, that kind of responsiveness that our staff has, readiness to help out, to find a way to help out, to deliver value. And then the last one I want to share with you is about a little boy named Sean. He's 3 years old. About 6 months or so, he started coming to our family story times. His mom was really worried about him because he wasn't verbalizing, he wasn't interacting with people except as a dinosaur. That was Sean's way of being in the world and interacting people, was as a dinosaur. But his mom was kind of worried about that. She wanted to see him develop social skills, develop verbal skills. So she had a conversation with our children's librarian, Callie, and Callie advised her to, don't get too worried about it. Keep coming to story times. Give it some time. So over the last 6 months or so, Sean has progressed in his confidence with social interactions and verbalizing. Recently, he asked the librarian her name, and she said, "Well, my name is Callie," or they often say Miss Callie, whether they're married or not. And most recently, Sean made a butterfly craft in the High Hope story time. He came out into the library, sought out Callie, he held it up, and he said, "I made this for you, Callie." So he remembered her name. That's what first blew her away. But also, he had the courage and he'd built the skills to be able to go out and seek out an adult who'd had a positive impact to him and tell her so. So those are some of the stories. And I have a folder now that I call my story stack that I'm collecting more every day. And what I want you to understand about that is the the real truth of our vision of a library in every life. Every person is on their own very unique life path. We believe that the public library can offer something to everybody that furthers that in their own way, in their own time, and that can carry them forward. So there's that. How else are we delivering value? And this, the next item in your packet is something I prepared specifically for you, Bill. Because, no, actually, you spurred me on to a good place a couple of years ago. You said you really haven't built the case as to, why the library needs this money or needs this additional funding. The heading on it is Return on Investment of Services Delivered. I don't know if you looked at it.
I did already, thank you.
So this is a really reductive snapshot of the kinds of services that we provide, but they're the traditional checkout sorts of services that we can assign kind of an estimated, and I'll tell you, these are rough estimates of a unit price if you were purchasing that item or that service in the marketplace as an individual. So what I did is I took our circulation figures and our service figures for our reference questions from January through August of this year, and I counted them up. And then I researched and went back to try to come up with a good estimated unit market price to calculate in a dollar value of those items that have been borrowed or those services that have been rendered at Oshkosh Public Library, and came up with total operating or total estimated market value of those services delivered as about $6.5 million. Total amount that has been spent to operate Oshkosh Public Library since January, from January through August, was $2.5. So we've returned $2.64 in value just in those areas to the citizens of Oshkosh since the beginning of the year. And that doesn't even count the value of some of these other things that I've been talking about. Notary service, story time, a safe and quiet and warm place. So there's that. So that's kind of my story about like what are we trying to do and how are we delivering. So now this is the part where I ask for the money. Now, I understand Russ's need to kind of walk you through the enhancement proposals, but what I want to say about the item on the list for the library is the amount there on page 35 is the amount of the original levy request that the library board approved in a special meeting back in August. And what was proposed and the library board felt was a reasonable proposal was a 4% levy increase over 2022. And the amount in the number 12 enhancement of $111,700 is essentially that 4% levy increase that the board proposed back in early August. The way I tried to build the case, now we came and we spoke, my board president, Bill Bracken, and I came and discussed that library board proposal with Mark and with Russ in September. And the way that we tried to frame that the equity or the legitimacy of that request was with the table that's on the legal sheet. Basically what that shows you is the trend in levy increase to the library and two of the other special funds since 2017. All the way far to the right, you can see the comparative percentage increase of specifically museum, senior services, and library from 2017 to 2022. So, and I understand these are tough budget times. Mark explained that to us in the meeting. He explained that he was trying to shape a levy request that would go to you that he felt you could support. And, we shared this information that in that 5-year period, the museum, and I understand that's the museum fund, that's not the entire museum budget, saw an increase of 8.73%. The senior services of 18%, and the library of 6.43%. So we weren't really being treated equitably over that span of 5 years. The library board looked at the needs. They've approved a 4% across the board increase to the library staff. The library's personnel budget is built into the budget request. The library's not participating in the city's class and comp study. So our personnel, estimated personnel costs are already built into the budget. There is no special reserve fund for that, so our estimated personnel costs are already part of the budget, part of the levy request. So the one thing I do want to say about that number then, the 111.7, at the staff meeting last week, we had a conversation about this, and that's where Mark suggested, basically, well, if you want to make the case, let's put it into the enhancements list. And we submitted that number, what was it, August 14th? I think the original budget request was due. And then there have been additional information that's come in over time. Finance has worked hard to understand what the personnel costs would be adjusted, some of the estimated fringe benefits costs. And so at the end of the day,
I'm sorry, Jeff, can
Yep.
I interrupt you?
you bet,
What page is the library?
233.
33.
Those page numbers are good. Yeah. The library budget is on page 233, and it has a 0 levy increase as the basic assumption. And actually, I'm glad you moved us there now, because some of the fringe benefit numbers are lower than the budget that we originally proposed in August, because finance was and HR were continuing to work on those costs. In essence, when I learned that Mark was not going to be able to support a levy increase for the library in order to bring a levy request to you that he felt was reasonable, I had about 24 hours to process that information and submit it to the library board. I didn't have time to do a really lengthy analysis of where we could trim funds to get down to that 0 levy increase. So my tactic was to take it out of the library materials budget. And in this budget, that's line 6524, specialty supplies. And the amount there is $248,400, which is a drop from this year's library materials budget of $330,000. It's long been my maxim that when libraries have to cut budgets, we can cut people or we can cut books. By books, I mean all library materials, DVDs, audiobooks, digital audio, ebooks, all of that stuff. So when I had to take the news that the library budget that was going to come to you is going to have a 0 levy increase, I chopped the difference off the library materials budget and explained to the library board that what we would do would be to monitor every single other budget line over the course of next year to try to channel money back in to the library materials budget. Now, the difference between that $248,800 and the $330,000 for the library materials budget is $81,600. If you could see your way clear to increase our levy by $81,600, that would allow us to preserve the book budget, and it would also take into account the various savings that finance found in other fringe benefit lines. So if I could propose that amount in the enhancement read 81.6 instead of 111.7, that might make it a little more palatable to you. And I guess the last thing I'll say before I'll entertain any questions you have about the library is that this isn't really an enhancement request. This is a request asking you to allow us to maintain effort. It's a cost to continue request. Because whether we end up taking that 81.6 out of the library materials budget in the end, or out of staff development, or not replacing staff for a longer period of time to realize vacancy savings, or even I've already given my maintenance engineer the news that when he comes to me with various repair and maintenance projects that, for the first time in my time here, we may have to defer maintenance projects. We've not done that. We've worked hard to keep that library building attractive and comfortable and a great place for people to come. So that's my ask. That's the payoff for the story. I'm glad I had a little bit of an extra twist on it after Russ kind of talked about it already. So I'm ready to answer any questions or concerns you have about my
Just
story.
a question here on 6412.
Mm-hmm.
So that increase there is interesting.
Yeah, so here's the thing about this. It's not really possible in many of these budget lines to compare the 2023 budget with the 22 budget. And that's because of the object code revision process that the finance department went through last spring. It ended up moving things together into different categories. That is essentially our contractual services line now, and that large amount is mainly explained by our contractual agreements to the Winnifox Library System, both for our all of our technology and network support, our computer catalog system, and then also some staff contractual relationships that we have with Winnifox.
So that was in some other category before?
It was
moved here?
under contractual services.
Yeah, that was what we talked about yesterday. If you go up a couple
Right, yeah.
lines, you'll
Okay.
see 340.
Oh, I see.
And I will confess to you that since that reorganization of the object codes, I'm still struggling to get a handle on my own budget, on what's where, what's getting expended where, and that's a process that's ongoing yet.
Jeff, I'm not interrupting you.
No,
but-
not at all.
So, where is, I guess instead of cutting, and again, looking at this at 10,000 feet, and instead of cutting programming and books and services, can't we tweak back on overtime pay? Just, if you could briefly touch on overtime pay?
The overtime pay gets called overtime, but it's not all overtime. A
Okay.
good chunk of it is overtime for our maintenance engineer who comes in to do snow removal, who comes in the middle of the night. He is an incredibly conscientious man. He lives close to our library, and so he does end up racking overtime because he shows up anytime on the clock to take care of, like, a sump pump fails in the middle of the night and we get an alarm, and he's there at 3 o'clock with Gartman Mechanical Services making sure it gets fixed. Then, so this isn't all like overtime from an FLSA perspective. Some of it is extra hours that we give to part-time employees to allow training exercises or allow other people to go. I could trim that back. I mean, I could, it would be an estimate, but.
I'm just looking for clarification, because, I mean, to me, and again, like you said, just like so many other categories in these budgets, overtime pay, you just explained to me, isn't really overtime pay, so.
Well, it is. He's working over 40 hours when he
Right.
does that.
But I'm assuming the whole 30 grand isn't
And I
going-
could
yeah,
assume a
yeah,
lower
yeah.
amount there, and that's what I'm saying is I didn't really have the time to comb through this line by line in the time I needed to get it to my board to explain. But yeah, I could have lopped $5,000 off of there, but it's an estimate. When it comes down to if it snows, we got to do it, right? I mean, if the sidewalks are icy and he needs to come in the evening to salt the walks, he's just going to do it. But yeah, I could have squeezed that line, but it would be an estimate, like it always is.
Nope, but thank you for the clarification. Then one last thing, how are our customers? I mean, have we plateaued and we can start working our way up again, or is it still
We are working
down?
we are working our way up again now. It's a growth process. I think our circulation, physical circulation, isn't kind of back to pre-COVID levels. However, use of digital library materials, ebooks and downloadable audiobooks, spiked during the pandemic, and it really hasn't trailed off. The ebooks has kind of leveled off, but downloadable audiobooks continue to grow. People love to listen to books, and now that they can download it to their phone, and so that then impacts how many people are actually coming in our door. If they can get library services from their kitchen table to download a book, they may not make as many trips to our building, but they're using library services. So yeah, things are coming back, I think, at a pretty healthy level. We've got a lot of work to do, and we're growing into new areas of serving the community, but we're going to continue to work at that.
I'm just amazed at how many CDs are borrowed still.
That's for us old people, Lori.
I mean, I didn't know that there were that many that were still in circulation.
90s are back.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's true.
Yeah.
The mom
Around.
jeans and all. Yeah.
So it looks like you've upped your advertising postage printing game.
Yeah,
What's
and
going
so
on there?
that didn't used to be combined. So that's
Okay, so-
combining several lines that used to be separate.
Gotcha.
And
You're not actually doing more of that.
we are doing more advertising because we're really working on one of the things that we struggle with that we hear about over and over again. In fact, my assistant director for public services this morning said she worked a 3-hour shift yesterday on the public service desk, and there was a guy who I'm trying to remember why he came in. He was a delivery driver, and he came in maybe to update his card. And he was shy about that because he had a fine. And she said, yeah, but here are all these things that you can do without even having a card. And he mentioned notary service and things. And he said, I had no idea that you even offered those services. So this we're making a real push to be present on social media, but sometimes we need to do an ad in the Oshkosh Herald, say, to promote our reading challenges and things like that. So we are spending more on advertising than we did pre-COVID. But we try to make sure that it's in a good place for the community to see and to take advantage of.
Thank you.
So was it a good story?
3 stories, even better. Story
Jeff,
festival.
Could you talk briefly about the county aid, because the county aid has gone up in recent years?
Right.
And what's been the
What's
cause
driving
of that? Yeah.
So in Wisconsin, county governments are responsible for the use of in-county libraries and adjacent county libraries by citizens who live in places that don't support their own local public library. That's basically townships. It's not always townships, but it's mostly townships. So we have to track in the best way we can, which is on checkouts, the use of the library and library services by people in the town of Algoma, and town of Black Wolf, town of Oshkosh, and so forth. So then we have a formula in an agreement with the county that then we come to them and we say, by the formula that's established with you and driven by these uses, we're seeking reimbursement for those uses. So it's driven by, now we say and we explain to the county supervisors every year that those circulation figures, those checkouts, are a proxy for everything that we offer their patrons, because checkout isn't all of it. But the formula is driven by computer tracking of checkouts from the library. So it's really use of the library through the circulation system and in an established formula that's been in place for about 40 years that drives the reimbursement from the county. The reason for the growth, and we saw an increase, a projected increase between this year and next year, but it was an even bigger increase between 21 and 22, and that was driven by 2020 use of ebooks, primarily in the town of Algoma. Basically, during COVID, the townships surrounding Oshkosh embraced downloadable ebooks and streaming audiobooks through our collections, and those get counted as checkouts. And that really drove our funding request for this current year. I thought it would drop back. It hasn't. They've continued. They found it, they used it, they like it, they keep using it. And so some of this funding increase from the county is driven by circulation numbers, but really largely by that use of digital materials. Oshkosh Public Library and the libraries of the Winnifox Library System have invested at a higher level than almost any other area of the state in building those digital ebook collections. And that paid off for us with the county funding in the last 2 years.
Thanks for.
And
Bad.
Jeff, there are some other things too, that came about over the last couple of years. And I don't know if they're still, admittedly, I haven't been there in a couple of months, but
Come on back.
some of like the 3D printing or the ability to like digitize your like VHS tapes and some of the make and take kits, are those have those taken off? Were they kind of like temporary? Are they
No.
booming?
No, the funny thing about public library services is we typically add new things. We rarely take things away. That's really the hard part, is looking at something and saying, we've got this extra cost coming. What should we not do? But no, you're right. We've expanded into these do-it-yourself kits that allow people to try out something. We started buying ukuleles this past year. So we're circulating ukuleles so that people can participate in the ukulele group that's at New Moon Cafe. So no, we're continuing down that path of creating opportunities to learn and grow in lots of other ways than just reading. We still have the machine that allow you to digitize from a VHS tape to a DVD. You got to sit there in real time while it does it, though. There's no fast forward version of that record. But with the technology, you also have to have staff that's capable of supporting it, of troubleshooting it when it breaks. Winnafox gives us some support in that way, but our technology librarian is also basically a reference librarian. So, we're continuing to look at ways to do those sorts of things. During the pandemic, when we were approaching the winter of 2021, a big theme in the media was social isolation. At that time, we said, let's bulk up our board game collection, because families are going to be spending a lot of time together. Let's give them something to do together. So we went to the game store here in town. We bought a bunch of games, and that's been very popular. At the same time, we started a jigsaw puzzle collection for the same reason. We invested in an initial collection, but that thing is actually now, it's got a life of its own, because it's being sustained by donations now. It's almost like an exchange. People come and borrow the puzzles. They don't want to do them twice, or they've got them at home. They're donating them. So that has also been very, very popular. So we're and that was in response to a community need that we were hearing about social isolation during the pandemic. And in the wintertime, we all know what winter is coming. We had it snow yesterday. So we're trying to be really active in listening to the community. Our community engagement librarian, Sandy Tolan, plays a big role in that, because she's out in the community every day doing activities, representing the library, listening. And we're trying to carry that back in and say, all right, how can we help with that?
And it's really interesting because the library has become like almost the great equalizer and unifier in the community. Because no matter what your age, I mean, you still attract, 16, 17, 18-year-olds with both the newer technology, but also the more tactile things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where the folks who are maybe, they want to escape the virtual world and be in that tactile
like
world.
Ellen.
It's like this, it's got to be kind of like this cognitive dissonance, but I guess that's the other question, I've asked different departments is, on the KPIs, where are you guys at on your number of visits and that? Is that in our
It's an annual
entry?
figure, so it's not very dynamic.
Yeah.
But our visits are coming back. Our physical visits are coming back, much like our circulation. The number you're going to have is year-end 21. We get there's a monthly report that goes to the board, and visits to the building are coming back up. I did bring a copy of our most recent monthly statistical report here, if I can
So
find
if
it.
I may,
Yeah.
real quickly,
You bet.
the third quarter is updated for the library KPIs is on page 46. If you're looking for them, which is card holders and activity users, library visits and programs, and those should be
Thanks, Russ.
updated to Maybe this one isn't, but some of the other ones are updated through the third
Then
quarter.
I misspoke. My assistant director updates that, so I'm not always.
But I think
But
in
we're coming back.
in previous budgets, the library's KPIs are always, I don't want to say outdated, but they're not up to date as much as the other departments. You're only showing 21 and year end, where I think every other department shows through quarter three usually when they're coming to us. But it seems, I think if memory serves me, that's how all the library's KPIs are.
Some of them are. I may have misspoke to say that all of them are. As Russ is saying, some of them have been updated for the quarter. So I will defer to Russ and to my assistant director, who's been keeping those up to date now. But in previous budget books, they were annual.
Question or two. You mentioned that the library chose not to participate in the class and comp study with the rest of the departments, basically, or City Hall.
Yeah.
Why?
Couple reasons. First, we didn't have it budgeted. When we participated in the previous full-scale class and comp study, we had to pay for our share of it, and we didn't have it budgeted. Secondly, we really haven't been experiencing the same sort of recruitment and retention issues that the rest of the city has. In fact, we hear regionally from our colleagues that we're stealing employees from other libraries, good employees. So we didn't feel the same urgency about having our classifications and compensation overhauled top to bottom. We felt pretty comfortable with how it's been working for us to do what we need to do, which is attract good people and keep them. And then as the city, the rest of the city has waited for those results to come, at some point we needed to make a jump so that we could submit a budget. And I talked to Mark and Fitz and said, look, I'm going to ask the board to submit a personnel request for 23 based on our current pay matrix. But once your study comes in, we'll take a close look at it next year and see where classes that may have been comparable in the past, have they shifted. So I think we can learn from the rest of the class and comp study and apply lessons from it. But we didn't have it budgeted. And we didn't get really any significant levy increase last year, so I decided to opt out of it.
Okay. For those at home or those listening or anything on this, on the budgets, the library is a unique budget, right? The library is the one budget that we have zero control over, that the city manager has zero control over. Our only participation in that budget really is the levy support. We don't get to have a say in operations, staffing, benefits packages, things like that, right? I mean, this is,
Well,
it is set up that way structurally, statutorily, but it's a unique budget, right?
the council doesn't control the individual budget lines. The library board does that by statute. But, as Mark has pointed out to me before, it's all levy money. And, we work with as much transparency and cooperation with Mark and the finance department as we possibly can. You all get a look at the budget lines here, and you can critique them. If there were things that we were doing in the line item at the line item level that you felt really uncomfortable with, and you expressed it vociferously, I don't think that we would buck that and say, "Well, we have the authority. We're just going to do it." It's true that the library board has administrative authority over the budget, and once the council approves that funding level, we try to stick to the plan that we've presented to you. As you all know, though, the numbers that get approved even in November, 2023 will play out differently than we all guess that it will at this point in time. But we don't typically radically go our own way. Back when we had unions, the library did negotiate independently with its represented employees, so there is a level of independence there, but we try to use that advisedly and carefully and in concert and collaboration with the city.
Thank you.
Got it. Anything else? I really appreciate your time. I know I'm coming in here towards the end. I hope I've inspired you, given you faith in what the really good work that we think we're doing, and I hope that you'll agree that it is, and that you'll find room to support some portion of that budget ask. I guess the last thing I will say is that, again, it's not really an enhancement. It's really about maintenance of current effort.
I'm sorry, I just had one last question that just kind of came up.
bet.
And I may have asked this before. Does the hall upstairs get rented out? Is that another revenue or not for that
The longstanding
dome
relationship
rental?
between the library and the Winnebago Area Literacy Council has been free rent and support. We've always viewed their nonprofit status, their hand-to-mouth existence from the perspective of fundraising and keeping their operation running. But their mission is so important to us and so aligned with ours that we've continued to provide them rent-free support. Winnefox pays rent, though.
No, I meant the hall, like renting
oh.
out for
Rental
as,
income.
as a
Rent-
venue.
rental.
Oh, you mean the
income.
dome?
Yes.
The Waters Building, the dome?
Yes.
We do rent that out on occasion for very special occasions. We've had weddings there. We've had a few wedding receptions. And there is a rental rate that's established in our fees and fines policy. It happens rarely. And we do have to have a staff person on duty to
Sure.
kind of shepherd the process, show people around and let them in and let them out and those sorts of things.
But I'm guessing that didn't happen over 2020,
Hasn't happened in a while.
2021.
I keep hoping my daughter's going to get married there, but it's not looking good.
So did the library have access to like any kind of, I guess, ARPA requests to kind of cover, like, I would imagine that the meeting room revenue, it looks like, it's starting to recover, but some of those things that would have been down over those last 2 years, is there any recovery for that?
There was no replacement of that revenue.
Okay, all right, okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Once again, I appreciate what you're doing these especially these 2 days. I know it's grueling, but it's so valuable, so important. Right.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'll get out of here so you can talk. I do want to say thanks to Ross and Jennifer as well for helping
No problem.
make this work.
No problem
I
at all.
love the pages of her.
Yeah, Jennifer did a
It
nice
makes a
job.
difference for us.
Jen's a gem, but Russ is kind of a bum, so.
Yeah. Big time.
Thanks a lot. Good luck.
Have a great
Thank you.
How are you doing? Stretched legs or just, Russ was gonna do
Stand
debt?
up.
What's your pleasure?
3 minutes.
Stretch,
Yeah.
you can log it up, you can cue it up, Russ.
You would up.
The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly.
The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly. The Oshkosh Common Council is currently in a break. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. This is GovTV, opening accessibility and understanding of local government, helping you to be informed and involved. Also streaming live and on demand at oshkoshmedia.org and radio simulcast on Oshkosh FM 101.9. Like us on Facebook at our Oshkosh Media page. For a schedule of all GovTV programming, visit our website at oshkoshmedia.org. Please stay with us. Coverage will resume shortly.
What the next steps are.
Sure. If you don't mind, I'd like to turn your attention to page 359. So, in our accounting world, our general obligation debt is accounted for in a debt service fund. It's the actual name. The name is, the number for the org chart is Fund 401, and it's 0074, which is municipal debt service. The general obligation property taxes is at 15 million $520,000. And some of that is going to be offset by other sources. So the actual levy is actually $13,430,700. What we did is, if we were just paying off our debt service principal with debt levy as we normally would do, it would include paying off the portion of debt that we issued in 2022 for 2023 capital projects. And as we explained in the introductory comments, that portion is being recommended to be financed through use of fund balance, because we really don't want to levy folks in 2023 for projects we basically haven't done yet. So that's where that extra $2 million comes off. If you flip over to page 360, we try to give you an accounting for all the different past principal and interest payments, including the 2022 issues, that has principal and interest payments. I would be page 360.
361?
360's blank.
Yeah.
Part of the packet that I handed out this morning.
No,
Yesterday.
at the very beginning.
Probably paperclip.
Yeah,
They were-
I have a
There
page
you got it. There
360,
you go.
but it doesn't match up with what's on the screen. Is it supposed
No,
to?
that's different. I was just
Okay.
trying to explain, the screen shows $13,430,700,
That's this one.
but the $2 million is already coming up, but I wanted to show you the detailed listing for the principal and interest payments, going back to 2005 all the way through 2022. So we're paying off debt. We're still paying off debt for projects and debt that was incurred back in 2005, or issued in 2005.
Russ, when are you gonna be ready to plug and play?
Plug and play what?
Like, when we start talking enhancements, you know, where you.
Let me, yeah, as soon as we're done with that, if there's no more questions, then we'll go to Q&A and we can start talking about.
Okay. I didn't mean to cut him off.
Oh, I know, I just want to make sure that, see once if there's any questions.
I do have a question. So the, right, we took out basically double our annual debt we took out last year,
We took out $20 million in debt.
which was not the original plan, but we did it to take advantage of low interest rates. Hence,
Correct.
debt service is higher this next year.
Correct.
But safe to say, long-term, that's gonna save us money.
It's too early to tell. We'll know that when we start issuing debt in 2023.
Okay.
It's a safe bet to
Well-
say your statement's correct.
Yeah, right now, you know, the interest rate on our 2022 debt, we don't have the interest rates, do we? Sorry. We can get that to you, and you'll just have to compare that to the interest rate when we issue debt in 2023. We're probably still gonna issue about $7.5 million in debt
Okay.
going forward, but we did already do 7 million.
How are you gonna, let's talk about that. The number I had calculated, we need like 8.2, maybe I added it up wrong, but
Probably what happened.
is it, you skipped it?
But it's half of, it's roughly half of what we normally would have borrowed. 'cause we
Right,
already
but-
pre-borrowed.
Yeah. Quit picking on the eighth grader.
No, you're not, I'm not.
No, I'm talking to Ford, not you.
You know, with the new listing where we have it by departments, doesn't show the total debt amount.
No, it required me to
Total
use a calculator, which we all know I struggle with,
No.
but.
Hold on just one second. Right now, we are looking at issuing debt. Whatever 14,271,000 is minus 7,300,000. So it's $7 million is what we're proposing to be issued in new debt for 2023. Because the 14 million that's in the CIP, 7 million was already issued. You have a different number?
No, totally agree.
So even though on page 360, and this is to the mayor's point, it says general property tax city, that's really what the general fund is gonna be funding but it's 15,520 less, there's a little bit of interest in that fund, and then we're proposing to use 2 million in fund balance because of all the advanced borrowing, so. The net cost will be what's on the page here, which is also on page 57, which is the 13,430,000.
Correct.
The 2 million for the advanced part, I've heard you reference that, but also reference what, 690 something? 690,000 for the 23. But that is all 2 million of that tied directly to our advancement of that 7 million. It can't be tied to the full advancement of that. So where's the rest of that?
I actually had it at 2.3, and we brought it down to just 2.
Okay.
We looked at the principal portion of the payment that's due on the 2022 debt. And we looked at how much of that was tied to the 2023 projects. And some of the 2023 projects were amortized over 3 years, some were amortized over 5, some were 10, and some were 20.
There's a lot of front-loaded debt.
And there's a lot of debt,
That's why.
like garbage trucks, they only last 3 years, so we don't even amortize that to be repaid over 5 years. We actually amortize it over 3.
Okay, that explains.
So we talk in general terms, but we actually, behind the scenes, are doing a lot of kind of mixing and matching useful life to amortization so that we're not paying for the repayment of debt for assets that are completely useless.
Thank you.
But the other point I wanted to make on this debt service line item, and it didn't come across during the library, is the library director and myself have had an ongoing conversation about debt that was taken on, Jennifer, help me, the year 2018?
Give or take, yeah.
Give or take, where the city took on some debt for improvements at the library. And we have allocated principal and interest payments from the 2018 debt issue, give or take, to be repaid by library funds versus our debt service fund, to the tune of about $185,000? 195? Yep. $195,000. So we have included the library debt in 2023 in that debt service number. In 22 and 21, it was a library obligation. We've relieved the library of that obligation in 2023. If you look at the library budget on page, whatever number that was, help me. So that would be under special revenue.
233.
Yeah, but what's the page number? 233?
No, that's what she meant.
Oh, that's the fun number. If you look at,
Oh, it's 239. It's gonna be a long day.
no, if you look on page 233 and you look down to principal and interest payments, it's actually 6705 and 6721. The very bottom of the page, you can see in the past, they were charged principal and interest. In 2023, there's no principal and no interest that's being expected to be taken out of the library levy. That's the point I was trying to make. So,
There was no principal in 2022 either?
Correct.
It probably
Hasn't hit yet.
and we usually, that's kind of an offset on a liability, but they would still be responsible, but we could probably take care of that as well.
They don't have a specific funding source that would come out of their fund balance, and they've got fund balance that exists. And Russ's argument was that they've got sufficient fund balance to pay for it. Whenever they're under budget, unlike other departments, the money doesn't go back to the general fund. The money stays with them, and then they can use it at their discretion. So that's sort of the issue. So Russ saw this and saw an opportunity to lower our debt service obligations by charging the library their proportionate share. Not proportionate, their direct share.
But we're no longer doing that. And
Starting in
there's
2023.
a linear story there, because that's very similar to that 111,000 number.
Yes.
Coincidentally. Just pure coincidence, but very close, yeah.
Is it really coincidence?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
'Cause
They were
4%,
asking for a 4% increase in the levy.
straight across, Jeff was asking for 4%, and that's 111.
Okay.
And I think what he he listened to our conversation where we talked about 3 to 4% increase in the levy during the workshops predating. So I think Jeff was expecting a 4% increase in the levy. So he said, well, if the general fund's getting 4%,
So,
I'd like 4%.
yeah, so you can draw your own.
That's still all based on the assumption that,
They have that debt service.
yeah,
Yeah, they don't in the 23 budget have that, and I've explained that to them. So, obviously, debt is a big part of the levy. When you look at the total levy of $45.7 million, $13 million is debt service. I mean, we're paying levy for projects going back to 2005 that we're still carrying as on the debt payment side of things. I just wanted to make sure you understand that. Again, this is the same as what's on page 37 or whatever it was.
57.
57. So if you have any other questions about the levy, I certainly would try to answer them right now, but I just wanted, yes, page 57. I just want to kind of walk you through that. That's to me, this is the most important schedule in the whole document.
Did you say page 11?
Page 57.
Oh, that's where I am.
But I think this is probably, for me, the most important schedule going forward. Because your whole purpose is to adopt a budget, but you're also adopting a levy.
The reason I brought up the revenues for the library was all of those special funds have a different story because their funding comes from various areas. There are certain things, for example, think of like the recycling and garbage disposal. When there's a fixed rate increase like tipping fees, if they don't have sufficient revenue and they have very few revenue sources to choose from, it's levy. So when there's an increase in the tipping fee, the taxpayers are paying for that. I mean, we've got little charges here and there, but the revenue that the garbage collection and recycling program make is pretty minimal, and that's a challenge. So transit is based on transit dollars. So I don't think we've increased that one at all for the same reason.
We have a couple of times going back to 19. The transit levy is proposed to be the same at $809,500, but yeah, they also have other revenue sources coming in as well.
Yeah, we're really benefiting because, as Jim said, for the first time in 30 years, we're actually getting, it's going to be closer to 57%, and it's been ratcheting down. So, but my point is, every fund has a different story to tell. The library did benefit from getting some of the outside areas. Algoma was using the library more. My opinion, if Algoma's using the library more, they should pay for more of it. So, but does it cover all the costs there? No, it doesn't cover all the costs.
The only other thing just a real note real quick, if you look at capital improvement funds, our equipment fund, for over the longest time, we were trying to provide at least $1 million worth of levy for capital projects. In 20, we went to $1,011,000. We got it up to $1,001,000. We adopted $1,001,000 in 22. Actually, when we did the CIP, we were up to about $1,200,000, $1,300,000. Because again, the concept being levying dollars for capital projects versus debt dollars for capital projects. And I looked at, because of the impact on the total levy, of minimizing that to the best I could. So I have now in the proposed $11,800 less in 23 than we had in 2022. And most of that stuff, as I mentioned earlier, is in your ARPA list, where I've taken ARPA out of capital projects and out of levy, and there's a couple more that could be added to get to the list. But when we did the CIP, we were looking at 1.2, and we're at just under 1.1.
Why does the Pollock pool not have any change across all of the years there? Why is it always 64,000?
kind of the same reason we haven't increased the library. It's just that we asked them to try to function within the revenues that they get at the gate, concessions, as well as the revenue agreement that they have with the school district.
But wasn't it Ray that was saying like the chlorine alone had quadrupled in costs?
Yep, no, that was the water, but you're probably right. I didn't hear Ray say that, but if you heard it, I wouldn't argue with you.
It may have been.
Their costs
probably-
continue to go
water.
up,
Yeah.
and they've been pretty good about looking at their programming and costs and other revenue sources.
The pool actually did better in 2020 when they were closed because we still gave them the $64,000 and they didn't have any expenses. So it was better to remain closed than be open. So the fund, so we'd known that they got 64,000 and did nothing with it for 2020. So they've got a little fund balance that they can eat into.
Other questions on the levy?
Anything more you wanted to make with debt service?
Nope.
Other than just,
I just wanted to make
Explain
sure
the
we
levy.
covered that 2 million, covered the difference, and the fact that the debt service levy is now including the library's obligation.
and you can see the bulk, the two big contributors to the increase in the levy is the debt service fund and then general fund operations.
Now, you know, if you're here next year at this time, when we do this, you gotta remember that our levy is going to be
Well,
higher because of
Yes.
the 2023 debt plus the $2 million.
you're right.
So it's just, basically, I'm giving you a 1 year out.
We did that, so last year, the year before, when you did that too in the debt service.
Yep.
Yep.
A massive,
Yeah, because we had some excess funds.
yeah.
We used it to reduce the levy on a one-time basis.
But in '23, we'll retire a lot more debt than we will take on.
So that the levy for debt was 11.6.
Well, define a lot, I mean, it's
11.1.
It'll be a net decrease.
Right, so I don't know if I'd go to say it's a lot, but
So anyway, so that's
If there's
that.
no more questions on debt, Mayor, we can
Okay.
go to budget enhancements or Q&A or whatever you wanted to do. You know, the plan from staff was to have this as an agenda item next week at the council meeting again for questions and comments or any discussion on budget enhancements. The public hearing is November 2nd, which is a special meeting. We have on our calendar after the public hearing, if you want another work session to talk about a few more things, we can do that with the goal of adopting the levy on November 9th. So that's our calendar. Madam Mayor and City Manager, what I have here, this one page is usually handed out to residents after the budget's completed. But I want to try to focus and give this to you as a resource.
I love this document going out to the public, by the way. I
Be-
think this is incredible.
And then let me just walk you through it real quick to make sure you understand what we're trying to educate residents on. For every dollar of taxes you pay, the city keeps 40 cents on a dollar. So that 40% is the city share. The school district share is 36%, the county share is 20%, Fox Valley Technical College is 4%. So although the city collects all of the taxes, we have to send out 60 cents on a dollar to these other jurisdictions. So you have no control over the budgets. They just give us a levy. We have to apply it through the assessed value and assessed tax rate. What we're operating and approving on November 9th is this 40% share of a dollar of taxes. So our 40% gets allocated primarily to general fund operations, about 52% or so, whatever, I can't even read my own printing. Debt is like 30%, you know, transit's 2, equipment's 2, you know, rental, pool, leach are all kind of minimal. The library is 6%. Libraries
are the cemeteries 1, senior services about 1, museums about 2, street lighting's 2, and garbage collection is like 3%. So that's,
Don't we normally have that general fund broken into like public safety?
you
and-
just flip
Page 2.
page, let's go from page 1 then to page 2.
Oh, God, I can't see
So-
that.
You walked right into that.
You did. So this is our levy allocation. So page 2 says, within the general fund, 40%, 46% comes from taxes. The other 32% comes from other state governments, and the remaining 22% is fees and other charges. So picture-wise, that's how, there's no secret. It's all, pretty much half of it's coming from property taxes.
Ross, I ask this every year, and I forget every year because I'm getting senile, but do we get compensated for collecting and?
No. I assume you're saying, do we get compensated for collecting taxes?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I mean, there's so many different things. If somebody doesn't pay taxes at the end, it becomes a liability of the county. So that's, the upside is we do all the banking
But,
and they do.
We don't
all
have the
collection.
liability, all right.
but,
Yeah.
Well, yeah, no, there's just
Yeah.
when
various
there's
things.
chargebacks that you just recently approved a chargeback for a corporation.
The big box,
Yes. And we were able to
Want me
charge
to come
back
and do a ribbon
the
cut?
2022 taxes, but we also refunded 2021 taxes because it was more than a year past. We missed the cutoff
We eat those.
in filing to the state to get the chargeback, so we have to carry that cost for another year.
it is what it is, I mean.
But in the, depending on the economy, obviously if we have the ability to invest these funds while they're, before we collect them and then before we remit them, there was some investment earnings, but the state changed the, distribution dates so that the stuff that's collected by the end of December has to be remitted by January 15th, and the stuff that's collected by the end of January has to be remitted by February 15th? 15th, I thought. The stuff that's collected by March has to be settled in April? The July payment has to be done in August 15th, so,
So you don't get to play with the money. Yeah,
no, it's really pretty minimal. So,
agreed. But one thing I would say on this document, which I love that it goes out to the taxpayers, but you gotta make the font bigger for
Yeah.
old people like me.
Yes, yes.
it's hard. I will
I
try.
know it's
Trying to
hard, but
fit a lot
even
of
if you
on
go
one
up
page.
10%,
Big- Yeah, the font.
it's just for,
Or a magnifying glass in all the envelopes.
yeah, so
It's hard for me too, I understand.
Nope,
Supposed to be higher.
it just,
What's that? No.
because the one chart that matters the most in here is kind of the smallest and hardest to read, I think, so.
Okay, I'll try
Thank
to
you.
see what's what I can do on that.
I know you're the arts and graphics guy.
No, I'm not. So,
Shows.
so I think we're going down to expenditures, because we're kind of looking at where the money goes. And based on our strategic plan, most of our money is going out for public safety. There's nothing to hide.
And that's never gonna change.
60% of it's going to public safety. General government's 14%, public works is 9%, transportation is 2%, culture and rec 5%, conservation and development 4%, and unclassified is about 5%. So the big ticket thing that I look at is if you take the average residence, you can argue with me right or wrong whether this is the mean, but we have it at about $150,000, and that's what we've kind of used as a benchmark. The property taxes for city services is $1,810.53, or an increase of $69.29. If you take that 1810 divided by 12, you're paying $150.88 a month for city services. And most of that's debt. Police and fire is about $20 a month. Public works 10, library 10, general government just under 10. Garbage collection is $5 a month. Transit's $4 a month. Capital improvements, that $1 million is about $3.74 a month. Parks is $3.69. Street lighting's gone up to $3.98. Museum $3.59. Community development $2.95. Senior services $1.21. The cemetery $1.11, and $3.36 is all the other stuff added together.
Is it worth phrasing it debt service for capital projects?
You can do whatever you want.
I just wonder, I think people see that, they think, well, wait a minute, what? I'm just
Yeah, that
spending
just
on
gets
debt?
back
They don't
to-
realize that that's stuff.
That gets back to this $13 million.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But I could rephrase that.
it's all our trips to Vegas.
Yeah, we put it in that.
Credit card for the donuts.
So, in closing, if you don't want to talk to people about this big book, and it's on the website, it's there, the link is working, I can get you as many copies as you like. We'll probably get this PDF and out there on the website as well. But if you're talking to people, this is what we're doing. This is how we're spending their money.
We can shrink it too if you'd like.
Yeah.
No, Mr. Miller's right. This is a good document. This is helpful. It's relatively easy to understand, in terms of what's coming in, what's going on. In terms of next steps, last year we did something we hadn't done before. Between this meeting and our next regularly scheduled council meeting, we had basically figured out all the budget enhancements and had it locked in, so that way when it was time for budget approval in the first meeting in November, it was darn near set. It worked well. The process seemed to go really smoothly. Consider that when you're letting Russ know and Mark know about your willingness for certain enhancements over the next several days before Friday, basically. If you give them to you guys by Friday, they can start doing some numbers, and if they've got an idea of where, if they know where council's going, they can start flushing some numbers together that we can start considering. Instead of waiting until Tuesday the 8th, it gets a little tricky if we're trying to do it that night.
Right.
Typically what
The 9th,
we've asked,
Wednesday the 9th.
Excuse me, Wednesday the 9th. Yep, the election.
if you would like to, we've got that on page 35, amendment offered by, these are here. Council's not limited to these, but we got a lot of them. These are more
This is,
options than, I mean,
Yeah.
where you've been on the
you're
longest.
gonna
This is
get
more than you've
flogged
ever
for
seen.
this.
Usually it's
roll
like
off.
It's gonna be
3 or
harder.
4,
But
Yeah.
but you usually give us like a window of here's what you have to work with.
The window is almost nothing.
yeah.
Right.
You're at a 4% increase on the levy right now,
4.19.
without any of these.
Right.
Can I ask you my broad questions, Russ?
Certainly.
This is just showboating. No, it's not showboating, but I don't expect you to have for Russ, not for me. I don't expect you to have the answers right now, but I do think that it's worth all of us exploring just some bigger picture items long term. How many vacant positions do we have? What is the process, or how often do we look at eliminating vacant positions? How often do we examine cost savings for outsourcing? Is there an appetite for that? What about service reductions? What is the need there? And this goes back to something Director Van Gompel has said a few times. At some point, we'll have to make decisions about maybe we're in the business of doing certain things that we can't afford to do. And I say this stuff not because I have any interest in eliminating positions or doing any of this stuff, but I think
Conversation needs to be had.
I think it bleeds directly into the fact that, right, we see the long-term trends that were all explored to us here. Explained to us here. We see the shared revenue frozen going down. We have an election coming up that could get worse after that election. We don't know. We see property tax pressure going up. We clearly have a disconnect between what folks in the organization think they need to maintain service delivery and quality and what we have the capacity to give. That's why we have this record number of position requests. So my hope is that, again, not this budget, but for next year, that we have some groundwork on a track B, almost an emergency.
And an inventory
Budget,
of the programs. I mean, we've talked about, the priority-based piece, like city manager has always, described it as a hybrid, but we've never really gotten down into the inventory and value of what we're doing. Like, I mean, we've talked about a number of years, for example, community development, the different programs in, you know, the One Oshkosh or Go H&I, not Go H&I, Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative. You know, it seems like it's been delayed and delayed the hard discussions.
Russ, are you prepared to plug and play right now?
Sure.
So, start with the ones you guys know you want. I mean,
Well, this is really.
By the way, I thought it was pretty interesting the way it was presented across the multiple departments supporting the facility maintenance side of things. Just to share, well, Mike, you know this, over at the university, nothing happens in your office, right? Like maintenance wise or cleaning wise, it's on you.
yeah, but he's a bad guy.
Oh, yeah, I
or
take
he
my-
can't
No, my
get a
husband's
position.
same.
He can't get a position added to save his life. Let's not use
Yeah,
that
that's
for an
just because
example.
I'm a low,
That Ted's gonna get.
I get
I'm
low
just,
respect.
I'm just saying, they have to empty their own
respected.
garbage and clean their own offices.
Yeah, we do. Or in my case, I just don't empty the garbage or clean the office, and it's just disgusting.
Yeah.
So utilities gonna pick up?
A little bit of utility.
My wife came to visit.
Well,
That's how I learned that.
you know, it's really what kind of appetite do you have to either add or subtract these things? And
I don't think it's any secret that I'm gonna support the cops. I mean, especially with the deaths and the drug overdoses and things. I think these narcotics officers are life and death. I mean, I don't think anybody in the room expected me to say anything different, but to me, those are must-haves.
Well, I have some concerns about some of the things that were talked about in terms of homelessness and some of the calls being attributed separately. I don't think we divide up our calls for service based on somebody's address, and you know, it's more typically broken down by whether it was a property crime or a, you know, vandalism. So I'm not saying that there aren't problems there, but I did have some concern there. And I mean, is it an all or nothing there, two or nothing? I mean, we think in the past we've looked at having the requests, putting the requests in half.
On the cops, Lori? Just so-
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Did you get a sense that it was all or nothing, the two, or it
I
doesn't
think
work?
that's his request. The request from the police chief is two.
Yeah.
I mean, no, I can only speak as the finance director and one of the many department heads that, you know, if council felt appropriate only to add one at this time, I think, you know,
well, could we add 1.5, you know? I mean, I'm just throwing a
you can do anything. It's not an all or nothing. I think you can go
So-
0
That
to
was my
2.
question. is
Yeah,
it all
so
You
or
can
Yeah,
go
no,
0 to
thanks.
what,
You can do it
infinite.
mid-year. I mean, you may want to ask the chief why, what's the magic?
And I'm not saying I'm just getting the conversation started.
No, that's,
Yeah,
no, this is where you,
Yeah,
this is
this is
where
where
you
the
start.
sausage gets made.
Was it clear that those two would be specifically focused on
Yes.
narcotics?
Yeah, they are vice and narc.
Only, yeah, so.
And nobody asked for additional documentation on the floor. So I'm just letting you know the feedback I've
Right,
gotten
no.
so far.
Say that again, Russ, I'm sorry.
Just earlier today, I think if we went to, I think as I heard it, 1, 2, 3,
I think you wanted more information on those.
You wanted more
positions.
information on these?
Yes.
6.
I think
1,
different
2, 3,
departments
6.
And
describe
8.
the positions differently, some in more detail than others.
I heard one, and I heard the highlighted ones is one that you wanted more information.
Yeah,
You know,
because for
Yep.
example, the curator of education, Sarah brought it, so you've got
And the
that.
chief went into detail about what his two would do. So it wasn't overlooking the police for more information, it was just the difference in presentation.
Sure. I just want to make sure I'm clear, and I just highlighted those. You know, we could certainly talk about any one of them, or if you think there's some of them that are not worthy of additional discussion, you want to take off the list, you could say that now too.
Since Miller started it on the police, probably comes as no surprise from my questioning yesterday, but I'm with him on the 2. I think it's a massive need, and we can talk about funding sources over the next week plus, but those 2 are huge in terms of making an impact in this community. I think we can use some ARPA funds, and I think it'd be an appropriate use. You may not like it, but I'd even suggest using 2 years worth of ARPA funds, so about 400,000 of the ARPA to fund those on a, you can call them temporary, you can call them anything you want, but that's how we start it. And then at the end of 2 years,
What do we got? Double the deaths, double the overdoses? I couldn't find the specific numbers, but I mean, it was.
Can I just comment on that real
yeah, of
quick?
course,
Sure, go ahead.
absolutely.
And
Always welcome.
I shared this with Mark. We didn't have a chance to talk. But if you go back to your resolution on ARPA, you know, you really wanted to focus on one-time expenses, capital items not operating, and I would strongly support that. And as an alternative, just a way of kind of getting it through my mind is right now the squad cars and the drone are capital items that are in the police budget. You might want to think about pulling those capital items out of the police budget, funding those with ARPA, and putting the operation of the officers in the budget, which kind of is about a net zero. But the only thing I would caution you is if you use that squad car funding for 2 years out of ARPA, year 3, you're going to have to put it back in. It's a time bomb. But I would feel more comfortable if you pulled a capital item
Stuck to our
out.
policy.
Stuck to your policy.
Right.
And we don't give the impression that we're using ARPA for people, for personnel costs.
And I won't badger the point. It's 100% respect the position, because I've been there every time I speak, I'm there with you. This one was about rebounding from COVID.
Yep.
This was, for me, it directly attributes to, there's data that proves during COVID, this happened, this skyrocketed during it, and I think it's rebounding and the resiliency from it. And that's why I think it's an okay, appropriate use. It pains me to even say the words, to use it for operational, because normally I'm always I'm the first one along with Bill to hammer in the point about OpEx and CapEx.
Yep, I agree.
For me, this one fits though. And I know that puts council in an interesting position in 2 years, but I'm good with creative accounting. If that's what you come up with for us to feel better about it, I'm also good with that too, so.
So are we just assuming then that 2 more officers cuts the overdoses? Does anybody find something a little bit disconnected here about whether or not overdoses and or suicides can be prevented by officers? This is a mental health issue. It's a physical health issue.
No, I think the messaging that I've heard is that we're going after the people selling the shit.
Yeah, this isn't about
So
the
this
users,
is-
this
This
make
is
life
purely a war on the drug dealers.
Yes.
But our overdoses, I mean, obviously, we know and we trust the data that the chief is presenting, that fentanyl, but how much of that is like prescription? How much of that is illicit? How much of that, we don't, I think we're,
If you take a look at the overdose fatality task force results, they identify a variety of data regarding this. The police department can only control one aspect, and that's the enforcement side. You know, when they're responding to a death, their work it's too late. They can be on the enforcement side. I mean, they can go find out the supplier and everything, and which goes to the point Bill was making. There are other aspects to it. There's, you know, the county, be it health or human services, both of those groups, the nonprofit entities, there's so many more. We're only talking about what we can have control with.
It's in our lane.
Fire and police. And somebody asked the question of Chief Stanley, are you working on this? He's absolutely working on this. Jennifer Skolaski lives in the same building as the Stanleys. So Jennifer talks to Mike about this all the time. And Mike understands their role, but usually they're just running out to the call. It's all there's a lot of preventive work that needs to get done that is neither police nor fire. Our role is how can we impact the areas we do control?
Fully supportive of the county agencies, the Health and Human Services and Social Services. That's in their wheelhouse.
Absolutely.
Their specialty, and fully supportive of their programming and what they're gonna try to do to come at it from the right. Within our wheelhouse, we have limited options in our wheelhouse, and that is enforcement and making life very difficult for those who choose to prey on some of our most vulnerable.
I also like to make note, you asked, how do we know it's not like a prescription overdose or something? Is that what you were trying to say?
I was
Ryan?
just saying, I don't know if we can balance that adding 2 more officers from the prevention end, which is what they want to do here. They want to stop the flow. And so I guess that split out of some of the drug overdose and fatalities, there has to be, I think, another way of looking at that.
I think it all needs to be looked at, absolutely.
I think you'd have to pair it and to get a little more specific. I know I've had these conversations with Dr. Skolaski, with Mark, and with Matt, pairing it with some training that the city put on. And I know, Mark, helpfully you said that, again, we were just spitballing, but even opening up to the community. Jennifer's group has done these trainings at the university and in other places. And it'd be great to have something where we train all of our frontline employees and give all of our frontline employees Narcan, and really pair any effort we do with enforcement with one that's specific to harm reduction in the community, because that's just as much, right? We want to stop the people that are preying on folks, but we also want to save as many lives as possible. And I think that needs to be part of any effort. And there's another place where the city can have an impact.
Well, I didn't realize they're handing out drug test kits now where you can test your
Fentanyl-
drugs.
Fentanyl strips.
Yeah, so
Fentanyl
I mean,
strips, yeah.
My daughter works at a local tavern and they're handing out kits, to be handed out there and everything, so, yeah.
Because the stuff that's illicit or whatever, you don't know, and those fentanyl strips can tell you
At
whether or
least
not
we're not gonna die over it.
One of the biggest problems that
We're still gonna do it.
the biggest things out there is when you have methamphetamine that Narcan doesn't work on, that is being laced with fentanyl, and being even pressed into pills that maybe look like Adderall or something.
And you don't
Adderall
want that
Xanax.
college
Yeah,
freshman,
that's
you don't want
It
that
is.
college freshman debt. I mean, we can't have that, so.
I think, with the 2 positions, I think I would want to make sure that we're talking with OFR, Overdose Fatality Review, to make sure enforcement is at peace. I think we've seen enforcement increasing over the years, and I'd want to make sure that that's a recommendation, that's a gap for them. I'm hesitant, but.
Because if the distribution piece is what you're trying to stem, right? And if Highway 41 is the main line, no pun intended, our jurisdiction is just kind of a small window there. I mean, I know they work with the MEG, or I'm sorry, it's not called MEG unit
OWIM.
anymore, is it? It's called
OWIM.
something else, the Winnebago Joint Task Force or whatever it is. But I agree with you that there more eyes and hands on, stemming the tide makes sense. But I would go with what Lindsay's suggesting, that we identify whether that's what they view, the health department views as the gap.
Any other ones you want to offer as an amendment or?
Well, Mark,
offer
because,
as a
Mark,
deletion?
because you didn't cut any of these things down for us, or.
Well,
Well,
it grew. I mean, it
Okay.
really mushroomed.
But, so I'm gonna throw this back on your table. There seemed to be a lot of support for Urban's position there, and there seemed to be a lot of support from the department heads. I mean, read the room. That was pretty obvious to me that collectively, the department heads feel that that's,
Well, showing up is important.
yeah.
And I certainly can take a look at these. These grew within the past several weeks because of,
They kept growing after we put the budget together, and that's
yeah.
like,
So
wait a minute.
I can take another look at these and
Yep.
give you some of my thoughts. And during the discussions, I mean, council raised some great questions, and I've been jotting notes. I got notes all over the place with these. Take a look and give you some observations.
And multiple departments also, besides the facilities position, multiple departments so they could benefit from that GIS position
That's
as
something
well.
I was also gonna bring up. Every single department, almost every single one, said that they would like to see GIS filled.
Now, obviously, at some point, we gotta say the inmates can't run the prison, but.
It's the crab sandwich.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd like to fund all of them.
Right, oh, yeah,
honestly, I can't.
exactly.
I think, I do fully support number one, especially if the job description includes reference to identifying efficiencies and waste. I think that is something that also has a not department-wide, organizational-wide impact. And I think that's, at least in my head, kind of what I'm using for any of those types of requests. And then number 8 caught my attention too, especially since it's not on the levy and has that multiple, that support across the organization.
I don't understand why the corp plan update was put in here. To me, it's part of our regular practice to update those plans on a regular basis, and it's out of date. So I'm not quite sure how that ended up in there, other than somehow it got cut from the regular budget.
It was asked separate from the regular budget.
I would, you could use fund balance, or you could use ARPA funds for that, and I don't.
Yeah, a lot of these, you know, given, I mean, Russ said some of these came in even after the budget was adopted. That was, or not adopted, submitted.
Yeah.
Corp's one of them. It was like, oh, I need to update the corp. Well, then we're gonna put it as an enhancement. And that was just a decision because of the timing of when I received it.
Oh, okay.
No different than, we still have to balance out the general transportation aids, because I was giving Diane the last draft of my budget message when Russ and Jesse sent up the transportation aids. We're short $150,000. We'll figure it out, but it's just another example. The corp's a similar example. It's like, under normal circumstances, you know, corp needs updating. We know that. And given the number of one-time expenditures and the benefit we have of having a strong fund balance in excess of our own policy, I think for purposes of, I wouldn't say one time, I mean, or very, very infrequent one-time expenditures, like corpse, you know, Ray said 5 to 10 years, or 5 years, and it's like, been 10. So it's overdue. It should have been 5, but it was actually 10. We haven't done a full reval since before I was here. So it's been like 16 years since we've done a reval. We've got a healthy fund balance.
If you want to
Let's
cut
do
to the
it.
chase, have somebody make a motion to take it out of fund balance, and we'll put it on as noted as an action
Well, we
item.
There is a
can't,
consensus?
we can't take
No,
action of
It's really
voting.
more consensus,
Yes.
but if there's a consensus that the corp gets funded out of fund balance, you're not gonna hear any,
That would be appropriate.
yeah, that would be totally, and I'm sensing, I'm seeing a lot of body language that that's okay.
I see 4 heads shaking.
Um,
I see 3. My head's not shaking.
The
Well, we can
EAB,
add this-
the EAB remediation frankly was another one. I mean, the EAB, the trees, it's very personal to me this week because I just lost 4 trees this week.
So when we're saying EAB remediation, Are we talking about the removal or are we talking about treating? Because that is a dying, no pun intended.
No.
A dying effort to
We're-
try to mitigate it when you just have to go with removal. Otherwise, it's extremely laborious and costly to try and save.
We did that for a while, but that's not where we're at now. We did it for a while, frankly, to buy us time, because we didn't have to tear down, take down every tree. If we can
Okay.
hang on to a few of them, then we don't have to replant those for a while.
So is this just removal and
This is-
replanting something else? Because it's the taking root and it's then the urban forestry and.
Russ, what's your understanding? I want to make sure, I don't want to mislead you. I think this is just removal. You already approved money to go towards taking root, because taking root's
Touch elm
going,
disease.
the foundation's going to find another 100
Planted
grand.
evergreen.
We put 100 grand in, and the foundation said they were going to find another 100 grand, so we were going to have 200,000 for replanting. And I did have a chance to talk to Travis Dirks, our forester, and he's preparing a list. He wants diversity, and for example, I lost 4 trees. It's like we're only going to give you 2 at most, right, to start with, and we want them to be different. We don't want the same trees.
Well,
And run through
some
that
maple
again.
thing's gonna hit and this town is screwed. I mean, if some maple killer shows up, we're gonna have more dead trees than we did with the ash tree.
So we want diversity. We want diversity. The mayor and I were talking a couple months ago, and I know very little about trees. I made one suggestion to her.
I'm really glad he did too, because we almost bought the wrong ginkgo tree.
Yeah, and it's like, and I just know
Or you'll feel
Very-
younger either way.
yeah. But having a diversity of trees is also important. So we're not gonna plant them all right away because we want the age and the species to be more diverse.
So fund balance or ARPA for that one as well?
Yeah, I mean, I put fund balance, ARPA, I mean, I would,
The last 2 years, we've used fund balance.
so, let's see.
I guess so. You know,
We're doing the easy ones, because the tough ones are gonna be all these,
well, let's
personnel
plug and
ones and
play on the
prioritize.
cops. You know, if
There was enough heads on fund balance for that one, by the way.
yeah, they were, yeah.
on which one?
EAB. The
Oh,
So,
yeah, yeah.
what, these green ones will be ones that I think there's support for, and you can have an up or down vote on Tuesday. So you wanna talk about cops?
Plug and play.
What do you want me to plug?
Plug the numbers into the formula and see what it does to the levy.
It adds 2 cents to the levy.
No, that's sustainability manager. If you're talking about the cops, it's 5.
Cops.
5 cents.
5.5.
It adds,
I can't see, just so you know. if
that's
some-
okay, 200,000 to levy, $207,000 lead levy right now.
We're at 1207 as our rate. I'm just, and it adds another nickel and a half, so it's about, it'll be about 1212.
What if we do 1 and 1?
Well, then it's half of that.
No, I know.
Yeah, I
Thank
mean-
you. Thanks,
Thanks,
Mark.
Captain.
You thought I was insulting your intelligence.
Yeah.
Sorry, I took it to the living room.
Oh, yeah, you're off the Christmas card list.
Yeah, again. What did you have in mind? What were you thinking?
Just 1 this year, 1 next year.
That's,
I know that's for us to decide, but I'm throwing it out. I'm not getting a lot of conversation on it. So.
that might be a question to ask the chief.
I agree.
If he wants,
I'm just-
does he
yep.
want to
Yep.
ramp up 1 and then 1?
Yep.
I mean, the other alternative in the same fiscal impact is fund them at half a year, and then at year,
Right,
6 months you hire them, and
right.
it'll be the same impact. We'll have to pay more in '24, but that's no different than doing 1 and 1.
Yeah.
As part of our discussion Tuesday night, can we have him here in person to discuss? So that we can hear direct from him instead of through an intermediary or virtually? Be helpful, I think.
Very good.
So, Courtney asked earlier, can you go down to the bottom of the rate impact? Is there a total? Can you sum that? What would all of it be? And then we start cutting, then we start shaving.
6% increase in the levy, the rate would go up to $12.28.
Oh my God.
Is that what you were asking?
That's what she was asking earlier.
Yes, so start shaving.
Right? What do you want me to shave? What do you want to take out?
Can you go back to sustainability
Save all but one
manager?
of the cops.
Because the sustainability manager was proposed in a way that the position description would be to basically pay for itself through all of the thousands of dollars of grants that are being left on the table, in not even looking for them or applying for them. Can we go 50, like a part-time on that, like an LTE? Is there any savings with doing a 1-year LTE versus a full-on salary to do a pilot with that?
All options.
Part-time GSI, GIS. Just cut it in half.
No, I was talking about the sustainability manager.
That too.
Oh, you're saying part-time for GIS and part-time for sustainability?
We can do whatever we want to the numbers.
Yeah.
And they were saying that would be an entry-level GIS, like intern plus kind of position.
No,
which
I wouldn't
thought-
say intern.
That's the way they were describing it, as a very entry-level for
Entry level is
data-
different than intern in my, intern is
Data
that,
entry, at entry level, but that did seem kind of high.
Almost every single one of our, like, larger departments brought up the GIS.
They did, you're absolutely right.
So,
That's huge.
like, and I get it, you're saying don't
Planning.
let the prisoners run the prison, but like,
Probably
It's
not the
gonna
best
help
analogy
all of
I've
them.
used all day.
To Courtney's point, I've got some support for the GIS. I've also got some support for the facilities maintenance tech.
me too.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, not unfortunately, but there's value in the transit one with an only 25% levy hit.
We need to figure that out, cause if the bus drivers are doing
So
all that stuff, that's a problem.
in terms of value and impact that those singular ones add to the
I
organization.
agree with that.
But, yeah, we have enough support from everyone over to, like, those singular positions, that it's important to, like, be aware of it at least. Or even at part-time, I mean.
Are the ones in green the support ones?
I think that you were going to discuss maybe
Okay.
for consideration on Tuesday.
I'd throw out my support for number 1, DEI coordinator.
Here also.
Since I'm on a roll right now, admin services, prescription, safety glasses, do we know that that's like a confident number? Is everyone gonna need these?
No, she said that everybody would use it.
Actually, would you guys mind, Fitz, can you come up? I just have a question.
Yeah,
on that one.
we want some
I
clarification.
was looking at you when I turned around.
And here's my question, and it may hurt me or help me in the discussion. Steel toe boots, reflective apparel, other safety equipment that is part of the job
Right.
requirement, because there are certain jobs you have to. Those two are good examples, I think. Do we supply those, or are those supplied as part of? Do we supply those, or does the employee take care of the cost?
I've been away from it for a little while, so this is my best guess, and I know Michelle's listening right now, so she might rush in here.
If you want to give her, you want to drag it out a
Yeah,
60 seconds,
yeah,
you're saying?
yeah.
A lot of those used to be in the collective bargaining agreements. And when they went away, we adopted an allowance, I believe, for example, safety shoes. So I believe there's an allowance that we provide, an amount that we provide for safety shoes. And I don't think we had anything specific to safety glasses, and that's why this is being brought up. And the number is the high end, as Michelle mentioned, so that's the worst case scenario if everyone needed them that's what was put in.
It's about 30 people, I'm guessing, because they're about $1,000 a pop.
I don't think they're that much, no. No.
Prescription safety glasses?
I don't believe so.
A couple $100 tops. So a question, and generally we try to stay out of the weeds and try to stay out of
Yep.
policy stuff. However, is there an appetite for, right now you got safety shoes, but just safety equipment budget that whether they need X or Y, it just comes out of that, and we put 20 or 25 into that instead of just specific for glasses. It's just a question.
Oh, I appreciate
consider.
you trying to be creative.
Yeah.
I guess right now, I think we have very specific things that we provide. And that's kind of nice because it helps with reining in some of the maybe more nebulous requests.
Sure.
So, although I appreciate your creativity, I think we'd like to
We dragged it on long enough.
a little more narrow. But Michelle can shed a little more light.
A little slow, Michelle.
Yeah.
I had my ringer off.
So how far off was I?
I have no idea because I wasn't listening.
Wondering about safety equipment, steel-toed boots, reflective wear. Those are certain parts of people's certain roles that we have that they have to do that. They have to wear that or use those. Do we fund those, or is that stuff?
My answer was, I know we did as part of the collective bargaining agreements, and when they went away, some of those were incorporated into our safety manual / handbook. But I don't believe we had a program for safety glasses like Paul is proposing, right?
We did not, no. We do have a safety shoe program similar to what we're proposing for the glasses. Other equipment might be issued directly from the departments if it's required for you to be on the job. So if you're in the streets and you need reflective gear, that would be issued directly from a department, not something that you would go out and purchase on your own.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it a lot.
Question. What if we used ARPA?
Well, I think, then it gets back to the,
Perpetual expense.
yeah, I think, as Russ pointed out, he was trying to keep you guys consistent with your policy, and if it's an ongoing expense, an operating expense, I think from an accounting perspective.
Let me throw this out there just to kind of move this down the road. I would support this if we do half. Does that work for you?
The other thing I would point out is this is going in the individual budgets, so when it is utilized by the utilities, it will go through the utilities budgets, not through levy. So only a portion of this will be.
Hit the levy.
Yes.
We got sidetracked with a lot of discussions during HR and administrative services. We didn't discuss this a lot. After listening, I got a few ideas.
Okay.
But I'd be getting into the weeds. But I've heard some great ideas, and so it's kind of all of the above, but none of them. So let me talk to Michelle and Fitz and Russ.
Perfect.
I think I have an idea that I'd like
Good.
to kick around. But
Is it a good idea?
no, it's a terrible idea, which is why I don't want to tell you now. So. But they'll help me make it better.
All right.
They'll help me make it better.
Fair enough.
I got a note, so I got.
Because the alternative is, what somebody like myself would do is just take the safety glasses and put them over my glasses, which is not exactly the greatest or the ideal, but.
Foggy.
Yeah.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Purple means no plan.
Purple.
Exists only in Mark's mind.
Mark's mind.
I'm gonna suggest
Which is a
that
very
we give
dangerous
it
place.
like another 5 minutes here and convene, because it seems like we've gone 2 full days. We have another option. We have another meeting time option. There's some homework that staff still wants to do and updates for more detail. Are folks okay with that?
Setting this aside for now.
Thank you. I like that idea.
I think we're just kind of a little bit
It's a long
toasty,
day.
a little bit crunchy today.
Your heart's in the right place. I mean, you're trying to do this, but at the same time, I think we owe you some more feedback, because there's a lot. This is a lot. It's more than I've seen.
I do want to share, you're all more than welcome to stay for Plan Commission at 5.
That'll get us out quick.
Sure.
Everybody said, oh, it's council. All right. So we will have discussion on at Tuesday's meeting.
Do you need anything by Friday? Is that?
If you've got anything, I really appreciated you saying, hey, I'm going to, I feel like I would support that one. If there's any other ones that you haven't mentioned to us that you want us to at least get on the table, we will provide you with more information on the ones that are highlighted in yellow, so that we'll put in your packet on Friday, so you've got it for the weekend to kind of take it all in. If you think of anything.
I think last year too, Russ sent us the actual spreadsheet in our email. So if you wanted to plug and play with things, because you can't really do that with a hard copy, if that would be, sent out, maybe folks could play around with some things too.
Ward's the only one in the room that doesn't know how to use Excel, so.
True. Notebooks, I do it all in my head.
For the utility ones, talking about if we have any other ones that we're supportive of, I'll be supportive of the ones as well. So,
All of them?
yeah,
Okay.
All four?
if you haven't had a chance to go through water filtration, wastewater, I'd suggest you get scheduled for a quick walkthrough, because those facilities, they are understaffed. And in my opinion, and water filtration especially, knowing what that can do for the employees, the recruitment, that one specifically for me I'm really on board with that one. And then the other ones, the regulatory needs, trying to even just barely keep up with regulatory compliance and some of that stuff, so, yeah.
We'll get some stuff, and if you think of anything, please let us know, and forward to the discussion on Tuesday. Thank you very much. Thank you for the last 2 days. Very much appreciated.